Dad was afraid I couldn't start a family. So he actually got his old comrade's beautiful granddaughter drunk. After everything happened, Dad used his past favors to force a marriage. But on the night of our wedding, I found out Chen Mukyu had someone she loved, married for 30 years. I never tasted what it was like to be a husband, until I died lonely and bitter. Chen Mukyu immediately settled down in the capital with her true love. Now, reborn into a new life, I no longer want to be entangled with Chen Mukyu. I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau and applied for a forced divorce. 1 month later, I will be able to leave. After returning home and cleaning out the wardrobe, just as I finished cooking, Chung Mukyu returned. She has a tall figure, delicate facial features, looking most heroic and valiant when wearing a military uniform. Before we got married, she was the dream goddess of the male comrades in the military district. That was also why I fell in love with her at first sight in my past life, in order not to be noticed. I walked forward, wanting to take off her coat for her, but Cheng Mukyu took a step back, her expression faint. I got dust on me. Don't dirty your hands. Her words were so respectful that one couldn't find any fault, yet so cold and distant, as if we weren't a couple married for 3 years. If it were before, I would definitely pretend not to hear it, and still reach out to touch her collar. Cheng Mukwa wouldn't refuse me either, but in her clear apricot eyes, cold disgust would definitely surface. I was deeply stung by that kind of look for 30 years. Stung so much that the scar in my heart would never heal. But this time, I just nodded, pulled my hand back, turned around, and went to the kitchen to bring out the dishes. I made your favorite scrambled eggs. Come and try if it suits your taste. Cheng Mukyu took off her coat, unmoved. I said I would eat at the cafeteria every night. You don't need to cook for me. It was like this in my previous life too. For 30 years, she never ate a single bite of the food I cooked. I was silent for a moment. My tone, calm but firm. I really want you to taste it. Just 1 bite, okay? After all, this is the first time, and also the last time. I want to give myself closure. As my voice fell, I saw Chen Mukia's hand hanging by her side, suddenly clenched tight, but she said okay, obeying orders. Hearing this, my heart was fiercely pierced. Chung Mukyu is the head of the 1st Regiment in the Northern Shanxi military region, and although I am in a civilian post, my rank is higher than Chung Mukia's. So in my past life, every time I hoped Cheng Mukyu would do something, she would always say obeying, orders clearly telling me the reason she did it was because she couldn't not do it, and not because of love. Cheng Mukwe walked past me expressionlessly, sat at the table. A faint fragrance from her swept into my nose. I paused, subconsciously blurting out, "You went to see Ling Ran again today. No one knows better than me." This fragrance belongs to Cheng Mukia's childhood friend. Lin Ran's most commonly used soap. Chung Mukia's plain expression changed instantly, her voice chilling to the extreme. "You sent someone to follow me?" Looking at her sharp gaze, I felt an inexplicable sadness in my heart. The words on my lips became hard to say. After being silent for a moment, I said lightly, "You've been tired all day. Go to sleep early." After speaking, I walked toward the bedroom. Unexpectedly, Cheng Mukyu followed me in. I couldn't help but wonder, "What are you doing, Cheng Mukyu?" With a bit of sarcasm in her eyes. "Today is the 15th. Didn't you say to sleep early?" Only then did I remember. In my past life, Cheng Mukyu was unwilling to fulfill marital duties with me. I could only order her, and set the date on the 15th of every month. The hand behind my back pinched fiercely. There's no need for that in the future either. Cheng Mukyu was pushed away, stood by the bed and frowned. "You better not be playing hard to get." Leaving this sentence behind, she turned and walked out, walked into another room, and closed the door. Since getting married, Chen Mukyu had put a bed in the study, and slept separately from me. In my past life, I entered her room once in the middle of the night. After that, she started locking the door. Hearing the sound of the lock, I pulled the corners of my mouth in self-deprecation. Rest assured, Cheng Mukyu, I won't be so unappreciative again. I turned off the lights, turned over, and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, I was busy all morning in the military district. At noon, an orderly came to find me. Saying my father had come, I went to the office, pushed the door open, and went in, only to see Cheng Mukyu already standing inside. Dad didn't even lift his head. "Sit, how have you two been lately?" I glanced at Cheng Mukyu, habitually reporting the good news and not the bad. "Dad, we're doing quite well." But Dad suddenly looked up, looking deeply at Cheng Mukyu. "But I heard, Cheng Mukyu has been constantly visiting a military doctor in the clinic lately. Is it true?" Cheng Mukyu's eyes turned cold. The hand by her side clenched tightly. The atmosphere in the office became stern for a moment. Cheng Mukyu lowered her eyes, just about to speak, when she heard me laugh and say, "I told her to go." Cheng Mukyu froze. Her surprised gaze fell on me. My expression was calm. That comrade Lin Ran lost both parents and hasn't started a family. It's quite hard for one person, so I had Chen Mukyu send some things over on my behalf. It was my lack of consideration. I didn't expect such rumors to spread out. Dad was silent for a moment, not knowing whether he believed it or not. He just grunted, put down his pen, and stood up. Let's have lunch together. Walking to the cafeteria, Cheng Mukyu took a deep look at me, but I didn't look at her. I just wanted to make sure that before the divorce, before I talked things out with my father, there wouldn't be any unexpected complications. No matter what happened between Cheng Mukyu and me, it shouldn't affect my father's prestige. We finished lunch in silence. In the afternoon, the three of us went our separate ways. In the evening, I didn't go look for Cheng Mukyu like before. I got off work alone and returned home. I started cleaning things up again. When standing in the living room, my eyes suddenly fell upon the TV cabinet, on to ceramic dolls of a boy and a girl. I couldn't help but fall into a trance. I remember I bought those when Cheng Mukyu and I just got married. I also remember after buying them, acting like presenting a treasure. I showed them to Cheng Mukyu, only to get her eyes full of disgust. These are things for kids to play house with. Why did you buy them back? But after Lin Ran came back, Cheng Mukyu actively bought an identical pair and gifted them to Lin Ran. I swallowed the bitterness, threw the dolls into a canvas bag, and continued throwing away some unimportant things. After clearing everything inside and out, I weighed the light bag in my hand and suddenly realized, married to Cheng Mukyu for 3 years, the things we shared were truly pitifully few. Walking outside to the yard, I tossed this whole bag of things into the garbage cart. Just as I was about to turn back into the house, I heard the sound of a car engine shutting off outside, followed by a familiar address. Suddenly, Cheng Mukyu's cold voice sounded. I can swear, I will never fall in love with him. Otherwise, I will die a horrible death. My face lost all color in an instant, but I just stood quietly. In my past life, I saw it with my own eyes. Cheng Mukyu accommodated Lin Ran in everything, spoiling him at every turn. When Lin Ran was sad, Cheng Mukyu would comfort him softly when Lin Ran was angry. Cheng Mukyu would smile to coax him when Lin Ran had a fever. Cheng Mukyu would stay up all night to take care of him. So after gaining a new life, I knew better than anyone. If it weren't for me, Cheng Mukyu and Lin Ran's mutual affection could become a beautiful tale, living in perfect harmony and growing old together. In this life, I won't be the bad guy breaking up a pair of lovers anymore. I turned around, sat at the table, and poured myself a glass of liquor. But I didn't expect. Cheng Mukyu actually came back not long after. She didn't care at all about the wine glass in front of me, only opening her mouth lightly. When did you learn to eavesdrop? I was stunned, ignoring the sarcasm. Took a sip of liquor. I pulled the corners of my mouth. Why must you make such a heavy vow? Cheng Mukyu had an indifferent look. Only by breaking the vow will one suffer heavenly punishment? This is enough to prove I will not fall in love with you, even though I've already decided to let go. But hearing these words, I still felt as if my heart was fiercely stabbed by a knife, even bringing a bloody taste surging up my throat. I tightly pinched the wine glass. After a long while, I raised my hand and drank it all in one gulp, then said, "That's good." This way, when the divorce procedures are finalized, when I leave, Cheng Mukyu wouldn't be sad. Cheng Mukyu frowned, feeling I was a bit strange, but she didn't think much of it, turned and walked to the bedroom. But upon seeing the light blue shirt in the trash can, her steps paused. "Isn't that shirt your favorite?" I didn't expect Cheng Mukyu to remember. I looked on quietly, without much emotion in my eyes, casually told a lie. I don't like it now, so I threw it away. Cheng Mukyu didn't ask anymore, took large strides into the room, and I also turned back to the bedroom. Don't know how long passed. Outside, it sparsely began to rain, accompanied by the sound of rain. I fell asleep shortly after. Suddenly, with a boom, lightning flashed and thunder rolled in the sky. I was so scared I sprang up right from the bed, hands clutching tightly at the clothes on my chest, panting rapidly. At 10 years old, it was in a thunderstorm, just like this, that my mother got into a car accident and passed away. From then on, I was afraid of thunder. I would be startled awake even in my dreams. Later, after getting married, every time it thundered, I went to find Cheng Mukyu. But that door never opened for me. The thunderclaps came one after another, until half an hour later when the thunder faded. Only then did my trembling emotions gradually calm down. I turned on the light, wanting to pour a glass of water to drink. Passing through the living room, I just took one look, then turned back to my room. Returning to the bedroom, even I was surprised. My mood was surprisingly calm as water. Perhaps I was truly used to it. But after lying down, I lost all sleepiness. I stared at the ceiling for a while, got up again, put on my coat, and walked outside. Under the banyan tree in the backyard, I crouched down and dug in the soil for a long time, finally digging out a glass bottle covered in dirt. The bottle was filled with stars folded from paper strips. It was right after we got married. I forced Cheng Mukyu to bury it together. Inside were fully written my affections for her and the yearnings for our little family. At that time, I was incredibly confident that I could definitely make Cheng Mukyu fall in love with me. But the reality of my past life gave me a cruel slap. I opened the bottle, poured all the paper strips out, opened them one by one, then lit a lighter, and burned them piece by piece. I found my true love. Her name is Cheng Mukyu. One day I will marry her as my wife. Cheng Mukyu agreed to marry me, and finally going to be with her legitimately. I was so happy I didn't sleep all night. Cheng Mukyu is a bit cold to me, but it doesn't matter. I believe I will definitely make her fall in love with me. I looked at the flames and ashes. The youthful longings of those years have now become as calm as water. Suddenly, Cheng Mukyu's voice sounded behind me. In the middle of the night, what are you burning? My eyes flickered, but the movement of my hands didn't stop. Throwing the last slip of paper into the fire, watching the ashes get blown up by the wind, I slowly stood up and replied some useless things. Cheng Mukyu glanced at the glass bottle. Finding it a bit familiar, I knew at one glance. She didn't remember at all that inside this bottle. What was originally inside, Cheng Mukyu didn't think deeply either. Faintly withdrawing her gaze, Linran had a nightmare, plus the thunder. He was suddenly terrified, so I went over to check on him. Don't overthink it, and don't give him a hard time. I pulled the corners of my mouth. At this time, she still didn't forget to defend Linran. Such favoritism is truly enviable. I threw the empty bottle away and walked toward the house. After a while, Cheng Mukyu also followed, each returning to our own rooms. One bed, one dream. Passing peacefully. A few days later, there were only 10 days left until the day I depart. That day, just as I arrived at the military district, a soldier walked over. Familiarly patted my shoulder. Comrade Zhu Feng. You came just in time. Xiao Wu from the Discipline Inspection Department is getting married. Hayes handing out wedding candies right now. Let's go join the fun too. Only then did I recall my past life's memory. It seems Xiao Wu married a company commander in the military district, going to the office and eating the wedding candy. Xiao Wu called everyone to attend his wedding banquet at noon. At noon, the wedding was held in a restaurant, filled with people offering congratulations. I saw at a glance. Cheng Mukyu surrounded by the crowd. She is the groom's superior, delivering blessings. I didn't look much, and started chatting with other comrades. Don't know how long passed. Suddenly, a very loud voice came from over there. Regiment Commander Cheng, you still have to be on duty today, right? Can you drink? Cheng Mukyu's voice was soft. I can. I took a leave. Immediately after, that person said again, Regiment Commander Cheng. Comrade Lin Ran volunteered. To step out and intercept drinks for the groom? He just drank one cup, and you're already protecting him, making it look like he is your man. I paused, looked up over there, and saw Cheng Mukyu supporting a dead drunk Ling Ran. The person who spoke fell asleep snoring on the table right after speaking. The lively restaurant stalled for a moment, and everyone looked at me. The male comrade beside me gently pulled me. Gu Feng, you definitely shouldn't take it to heart. He drank too much. Cheng Mukyu also frowned, placed the unsteady Lin, ran from her arms onto a chair, to sit, as if she was about to walk over to explain to me. Before she took a step, I smiled and said, I know it's a joke. I want to take it to heart. Cheng Mukyu retracted the foot she had lifted. She looked at me, who was smiling on the surface, but had not a trace of fluctuation in my eyes, feeling an indescribable strangeness in her heart. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something more, when an exclamation came from behind. Comrade Lin Ran. What's wrong with you? Cheng Mukyu hurriedly turned her head, only to see Lin Ran curled up entirely on the ground, his face turning purple, looking like he couldn't breathe. She immediately rushed over and pulled Lin Ran into her arms, pressing gently on his chest, without avoiding suspicion. Hayes having an asthma attack. Call an ambulance. Waiting for Lin Ran to recover. After his breathing smoothed out, Cheng Mukyu helped him up without hesitation, rushing out without stopping for a moment, leaving everyone behind. Including me, I calmly watched this scene and said nothing. The wedding banquet soon dispersed. I returned to the office, wrote an application report, and then knocked on the door of the commander's office. Dad, I am applying for a transfer to Beijing. To be permanently stationed there? My words rang out powerfully in the commander's office. Father slowly raised his head, his still vigorous face full of seriousness. Transfer to Beijing? What's the reason? Do you not want your wife and family anymore? I felt a bit of dryness in my throat. Father and I weren't that close, especially after the age of 10. After my mother passed away, added to Father's busyness, the words Father and I could speak to each other were extremely few. In my past life, I always felt that Father didn't love me that much. But only after death did I realize. Father actually used the favors he did for Cheng Mukyu to make Cheng Mukyu marry me. Regardless of the right or wrong of this matter, Father's intention was just wanting me to get my heart's desire. To get the happiness I wanted, I took a deep breath. I have already applied for a forced divorce. In 10 days, the procedures will be finalized. Divorce. Dad stood up abruptly. Why divorce? Did Cheng Mukyu do something to betray you? I smiled bitterly, Dad. I know how my marriage with Cheng Mukyu came about. She doesn't have me in her heart. I tried, but still decided not to continue delaying each other. Dad kept a cold face and didn't speak. I said again, I know you are about to be transferred to Beijing. Wouldn't it be nice for us father and son to go to Beijing together? Dad's expression slightly changed. How did you know? Because this happened in the past life. In the past life, after Dad was transferred away, the relationship between Cheng Mukyu and me became even more deadlocked. I didn't speak, just waited quietly. After a long while, Dad waved his big hand, signed his name on the report. All right, as long as you don't regret it later. I smiled. I want. In the afternoon, Cheng Mukyu and Lin Ran didn't return to the military district. At night, Cheng Mukyu didn't come home either. I didn't care. Lin Ran's asthma acted up. With no one by his side to take care of him, Cheng Mukyu naturally wouldn't bear to leave. I washed up and slept as usual. After work the next day, I walked home alone. When passing in front of the cinema, I suddenly saw a familiar car parked by the road. I paused and saw Cheng Mukyu opening the passenger door for Lin Ran. Lin Ran saw me first. Having already sat in the passenger seat, he immediately wanted to get down. Comrade Ju, you're off work. What good timing. Let's go back together. You definitely must not misunderstand. I made an appointment with a friend to watch a movie. But the friend had something come up temporarily. I just happened to run into Cheng Mukyu, so I asked her to watch it with me. In my past life, I valued these small details very much, believing that the passenger seat of Cheng Mukya's car was the recognition of the status as Cheng Mukya's husband, to the point of treating this seat as the source of security in our marriage. But the current me has given up even on the person Cheng Mukyu herself. So how could I care about her passenger seat? Seeing Lin Ran was about to get out of the car, I stopped him. It's fine. I didn't overthink it. You don't need to get down either. It's quite troublesome. You guys go ahead. I'll just walk back. Cheng Mukyu gave me a look, hesitating to speak, but I had already turned and left. At night, I looked at Cheng Mukyu, who was still busy in the study. Hesitating for a moment, I still knocked on the door to remind her. It's almost 10 o'clock. Are you still not resting? Cheng Mukyu has a very strong sense of time, never sleeping past 10 o'clock. Tonight, she made an exception. Cheng Mukyu didn't even lift her head and replied, There is an art performance tomorrow. Lin Ran is participating in a program. I need to finish reading all these documents tonight. Otherwise, I won't make it to his performance tomorrow. Cheng Mukyu said this very naturally, not caring at all, that this man who came to care about her rest was her husband. My chest felt heavy. Sure enough, you only value what you like. It's a fact I clearly already knew in my previous life. Why ask for trouble now? I nodded. Didn't say anything more. Turned around and went back to my own room. Crossed off another day on the calendar until the divorce procedures are done. There are still 8 days left before going to Beijing with father. The art performance was on the following morning. I didn't go watch. I originally thought I wouldn't see Cheng Mukyu today either. Unexpectedly, after eating lunch, just as I returned to the office from the cafeteria, Cheng Mukyu walked over. Her tone displeased. Yesterday afternoon, did Dad mention to you that the murderer of the 218 coal mine case fled to Lin Cheng? Was it you who wouldn't allow Dad to transfer me to Lin Cheng to assist in the investigation? I was stunned. Cheng Mukya's father was murdered a few years ago, which is the unsolved 218 coal mine case. Therefore, Cheng Mukyu has always had a deep obsession with this matter, but she didn't know the murderer fled to Lin Cheng, nor did she know about her father's order. Just as I was about to speak, I saw the usually composed Cheng Mukyu with burning eyes. How could you trap me here for your own selfish desires? No one understands that murderer better than I do. I must go to Lin Cheng. Before my eyes floated the scene from 3 years ago, before Cheng Mukya's mother passed away, heartbrokenly begging me, Gyu Feng Mukyu, this child has too deep an obsession in her heart. I'm afraid that in order to avenge her dad, she will disregard her own safety. Please watch over her, Mom. I promise you. I want to let her get into trouble impulsively. My thoughts returned. I hardened my voice. This matter has nothing to do with me. Who to send to Lin Cheng is the superior's decision. You are a soldier. You have to obey orders. Cheng Mukyu suddenly clenched her hands tightly, said coldly, You acting like this will only make me hate you more. My breathing stalled. But I didn't speak anymore. I was absent-minded the whole afternoon. Suddenly, the office door was knocked on. Lifting my head, I saw Lin Ran walking in. Lin Ran was wearing a simple white shirt, clean and refreshing. Tall and handsome. I thought, no wonder Cheng Mukyu would never forget him these years. I gathered my thoughts. Comrade Lin, is there anything you need me for? Lin Ran quickly looked up at me once, and suddenly kneeled on the ground, knocking his head heavily down. Comrade Juim, here to beg you. Cheng Mukyu really wants to personally catch the murderer who killed her father. Do you truly not care about her wish at all? I beg you, let her go to Lin Cheng. I stood up, my expression suddenly changing. The 218 coal mine case. The murderer's whereabouts is a secret. How did you know? You eavesdropped on the superior leaders' meeting? Lin Ran's pleading abruptly stopped. His face turned deathly pale in an instant. Under my sharp gaze, he stammered, not knowing how to speak. Right at this moment, Chang Mukyu walked in. With a dark face, she helped Lin Ran up. The gaze she directed at me contained unprecedented disgust and hatred. Ju Feng, how could you make him kneel? You use your official authority to suppress people. Lin Ran's eyes brimmed with tears. Mukyu, it's my fault. Don't argue with Comrade Gu because of me? The voice Chung Mukyu used when turning her head to speak to him instantly became gentle. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Looking at the scene in front of me, I only felt my heart being fiercely stabbed. I pinched my hand, steadied my posture, and asked firmly, do you know what crime he committed? He eavesdropped on the contents of a confidential meeting. According to military law, before I finished speaking, Cheng Mukyu interrupted me in a deep voice. No matter what crime, I am willing to take it for him. I froze in place in disbelief, feeling angry for the first time. Seeing the deep, unregretful affection in her eyes, an unspeakable soreness flooded my heart even more. Cheng Mukyu for him. You don't even want your future anymore? Cheng Mukyu was startled. Remained silent for a moment before speaking. He took the risk to eavesdrop for me. Ultimately, it's all because of me. When I married you back then, I already let him down once. I can't let him suffer wrongs again. I clenched my fists tightly, just to calm myself down, but couldn't resist the sudden agonizing pain surging in my chest. I closed my eyes, my tone unable to hide the disappointment. What happened today? I will pretend it never happened. As for the matter of going to Lin Cheng, I will talk to Dad. You both can get out. Cheng Mukyu looked at me with some surprise, but still, out of concern for Lin Ran's needs, brought him along and turned to leave. Looking at the backs of the two, I wiped away the tears welling up in my eyes, muttering to myself, soon, you won't have to let him down anymore. I took a deep breath, picked up the phone and called Dad. At night, I waited at the table for Chung Mukyu to return. The moment she entered the house, I said, the superior's arrangement has come down. In 7 days, you will head to Lin Cheng to assist the Lin Cheng military district with the case. Cheng Mukyu paused, seemingly not expecting that I would really help. She nodded. Thank you. I nodded silently, then got up and went back to my room. I had already gone to the station in the afternoon and bought a long-distance train ticket to the capital. In 7 days, Chung Mukyu goes to Lin Cheng, and I will also leave for Beijing. Everyone returns to their places. Everyone goes their separate ways. I took out my suitcase and started packing my luggage, putting my clothes, certificates, and medals into the suitcase. What was left besides the clothes to wear for these 2 days? In this home, there were almost no traces of me left. Just as I pressed the lock on the suitcase and lifted it, a hand suddenly grabbed my wrist tightly. Where are you going? I was a bit stunned. The expression written on Cheng Mukyu's face right now, is it panic and nervousness? The only person who could make her nervous was Lin Ran alone. I became increasingly calm. I just felt the house was a bit messy. Just putting away some clothes I don't wear as I spoke. I even pointed to the bag next to it. I've also packed up some clothes you don't wear. Those were all clothes I had once bought for Cheng Mukyu, but she never even took a single look at them. Since she doesn't like them, might as well clear them out together. Cheng Mukyu paused, feeling strange in her heart too. What's wrong with me? Actually worrying that he would leave. She composed her thoughts. Let go of my hand, her eyebrows and eyes turning cold again. I wanted to tell you, Ran has already applied to be the accompanying military doctor, and will go with me. He has a good relationship with my father, and also wants to see me catch the murderer with his own eyes. Don't overthink it. My hand movements stalled. After a long while, I spoke. Taking him with you. Aren't you afraid something might happen to him? Cheng Mukyu didn't hesitate at all. I will protect him. I won't let him suffer any harm. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh self-deprecatingly in my heart. Yes, how could she let Lin Ran get hurt? That is the person she cares about the most. I lowered my eyes and turned my back. I'm going to sleep, but the sound of Chung Mukyu's departing footsteps didn't come from behind. I wanted to look back curiously, but before I could turn my head, Cheng Mukyu suddenly threw herself into my arms. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. What are you doing? Cheng Mukyu's breath was hot, but the words she spoke made me instantly feel like I fell into an ice cellar. I know you are angry inside. As long as you don't make things difficult for Lin Ran, I can help you. For a moment, it was as if I was burned. I forcefully pushed Chung Mukyu away. What do you take me for? Cheng Mukyu was expressionless. There was not a bit of love in those eyes. I only felt humiliated. I pushed the person out, closed the door, leaned against the door panel, my heart feeling like it was being sliced into pieces. In the following days, I was constantly busy with preparations before leaving. Soon, 5 days passed and arrived. The second to last day before leaving, the transfer order for Dad and me to go to Beijing had already come down. After clearing out the things in the office, I hesitated for a long time, but still went to find Cheng Mukyu holding a bulletproof vest. That murderer is extremely vicious and has a gun in his hands. You must be careful. I had given her many gifts in my past life. This one would be the last gift I give her. Cheng Mukyu casually took it, said lightly, thanks. but didn't have the intention to take even one more look. I pursed my thin lips, and suddenly caught sight on her desk. There was already a bulletproof vest placed there. I froze. "You already prepared one?" Just as the words fell, I saw a trace of tenderness flash in Chang Mukia's eyes. Comrade Lin Ran prepared it. My eyes darkened slightly. It was me doing something unnecessary. Silent for a moment, I remembered something. "Let's have dinner together tomorrow night. This will be our last dinner." Cheng Muku frowned, just about to say there's no need. But at this moment, looking at my gaze, for some reason, she actually couldn't say the words of refusal. And remembering that being able to go to Lin Cheng this time was because I pleaded for her. She pursed her lips tightly. Okay, the next day, the last night before leaving, I wrapped a meal of dumplings at home. Dumplings when leaving, noodles when arriving. Safe and sound all the way. Chung Mukyu and I both need to walk safely towards our own distant futures. When Cheng Muku came back, she was a bit stunned. For the first time, she said, "You put a lot of thought into this." I smiled, stepping forward, holding 2 saucers of garlic soy sauce. "Quickly sit down and eat. It's freshly boiled. I remember you like eating them piping hot." Hearing this, Cheng Mukyu was a bit surprised. Married for 3 years. The meals we ate together were very few. Most of them were eaten together with Dad. Except for eating at the military district cafeteria, it was eating dumplings together during the New Year. She didn't expect that I actually remembered her preference. She sat down at the table, picked one up and put it in her mouth. Opened her mouth somewhat unnaturally. "It's very delicious." I didn't speak. Didn't expect. The first meal we ate alone together would be like this. Just as I wanted to say something, the landline next to the sofa rang. Cheng Muku got up to answer the phone. Hanging up the phone, she glanced at me, picked up the luggage that was packed early on by the door. Something came up at the military district. "You'll go over and handle it. I won't be back tonight. Tomorrow morning, you'll leave directly by car. You don't need to wait for me. Go to sleep early." After speaking, she opened the door and left in a hurry. I looked at the dumpling in her bowl that was only half bitten, twitched the corners of my mouth, pretending nothing happened, continuing to eat and wait for her. A long time ago, I already stopped waiting for her. I finished all the dumplings alone, then washed all the bowls and plates clean, and put them back in their original places. Then, I spent my last night in this house. The next morning at 6 o'clock, the moment I opened my eyes, looking at the beautiful sunny weather outside the window, my mood was excellent. The corners of my mouth involuntarily curled into a bright smile. I made myself a breakfast, ate it slowly and carefully. Afterwards, took my last 2 pieces of clothing from the wardrobe and put them all into the suitcase. Then took out that forced divorce document from the bottom drawer and placed it in the most conspicuous position on the desk. Once the 15 days arrive, the marital relationship is automatically dissolved. The staff member's words echoed in my ears. I picked up the suitcase, opened the door, and was about to leave, but saw 2 familiar figures. At the gate of the military family compound, getting into together. A green Jeep. It was Cheng Mukyu and Lin Ran. It seems that last night it wasn't a matter at the military district, but rather a matter with Lin Ran. Outside of her status, she tried her best to keep him company. I watched the Jeep leave, smiled in relief, and then turned around and closed the door. Step by step, I left the marital home I shared with Cheng Muku. Left this home that no longer had any traces of me. Just as I walked to the gate of the military family compound, another Jeep stopped. The car window rolled down. It was my father. "All packed, get in the car." I nodded, yes. The Jeep drove in the direction of the train station. 8:22 trains started simultaneously in the train station. One going from northern Shanxi to Beijing. One going from northern Shanxi to Linchang. One heading north. One heading south. Parting from here on out, with no more intersection. Through the car window, I saw Cheng Mukyu and Ling Ran on the opposite side. My lips silently opened and closed. Goodbye. On the other side, Chen Mukyu suddenly felt a stir in her heart. She turned her head to look at the opposite side, but only saw the tail of the speeding away train. Chen Mukyu suddenly felt a bit uneasy in her heart, but couldn't articulate why, and somehow, she actually suddenly thought of me. Why am I thinking of him? Chen Mukyu held her head, and shook her head. Beside her, Lin Ran saw this. Puzzled, he asked Mukyu, "What's wrong with you, Chen?" Mukyu withdrew her gaze, raised her head again. "Nothing, I was thinking about that murderer." "That's right. Right now, nothing is more important than catching the murderer who killed her father." Cheng Mukia's gaze became firm. Cheng Mukia's mission in Lincheng was quite smooth. She had studied the murderer of the 218 coal mine case for years. Indeed, as she said, no one understood that murderer better than her. Because of her participation, the military district there got twice the result with half the effort, and very smoothly brought the murderer to justice. After so many years, she finally waited until this moment. Looking at the murderer being escorted onto the police car, Chen Mukyu barely held back her tears, but her eyes still turned red. Lin Ran by her side congratulated her on finally avenging her great enmity, but for some reason, At this very moment, what unexpectedly appeared in her mind was my face. Chen Mukyu hurriedly shook her head, throwing this abnormal thought out of her mind. It must be because Ju Feng helped her in this operation, that she would think of him at this time. After the operation ended, Chen Mukyu and Lin Ran didn't stay long either. Boarded the return train back to northern Shanxi. When they arrived, it was already evening. Cheng Mukyu didn't even have time to go home. Preparing to go directly to the cemetery, Lin Ran looked at her with a face full of concern. Cheng Mukyu, let me accompany you there. But Cheng Mukyu didn't want him to run around with her anymore. His health was already not good. What if something bad happened? No need, Lin Ran. You take the jeep back first. The cemetery is far away, so don't exhaust yourself running around with me. With that, she waved over the driver and handed Lin Ran's carry-on suitcase over. Lin Ran knew she must have many words she wanted to confide. He wanted to accompany her, but she didn't want it, so he could only give up. Getting into the jeep and heading off, Cheng Mukyu directly borrowed a 28 bicycle and pedaled to the cemetery. Her father and mother were buried together. Cheng Mukyu carried 2 bouquets of fresh flowers up the mountain. She originally thought there wouldn't be anyone at the cemetery at this time, but unexpectedly from afar, she saw a person with their back to her. Standing in front of her parents, Tombstone Cheng Mukyu went forward and called out, "Uncle Duan." That person didn't turn around, just responded with an, "You're here." Uncle Duan was a good brother to her parents, and also one of the few survivors of the 218 coal mine case. After her father died, he had also taken good care of her, until later, when she started a family and became a regiment commander. Only then did Uncle Duan focus on his own family. She originally wanted to go send Uncle Duan the news a bit later, but didn't expect his information to be so well informed. Arriving at the cemetery one step ahead of her, Cheng Mukyu placed the fresh flowers respectively in front of the tombs, finished wiping the tombstones, and stood up, only to hear Uncle Duan speak. I originally thought I would never see the murderer brought to justice in this lifetime. I didn't expect Cheng Mukyu to still be so capable. The net of heaven is vast, mesh-wide but letting nothing through. He did wrong and will always be punished. Uncle Duan sighed softly. However, I didn't expect that boy Ju Feng would actually let you go to Lin Cheng. After all, when your mom died, she begged him to make sure to watch over you. At that time, when I heard you were going to Lin Cheng, I was astonished for a long time. Looking at it now, it's because he has confidence in your abilities. It was me overthinking. It was as if a thunderclap exploded by her ear. Cheng Mukyu took a long time to find her voice. Uncle Duan, are you saying before my mom died? Uncle Duan suddenly realized. Didn't Ju Feng tell you? Before your mom passed, she was afraid you'd do something foolish, and entrusted him with definitely watching over you. No wonder he wasn't willing for her to go to Lin Cheng. So it turned out there was this layer of relationship involved. But why didn't he say it? As soon as she thought of what she had said at that time, Cheng Mukyu pursed her red lips. She had misunderstood him. Even though she didn't like him, she should still apologize. She hurriedly said goodbye to Uncle Duan and walked in the direction of home. On the way, she passed by a stall selling tonghulu. She remembered I really liked eating it, and conveniently bought one. Returning home, Cheng Mukyu pushed the door open somewhat nervously. However, the house was completely empty, cold and deserted. Looking around at a glance, she knew I wasn't in the house. Ju Feng, she called out twice, but no one answered. Just wondering where the person went at this time. Then Chen Mukyu glanced sideways and saw the forced divorce document on the desk. The tanghulu instantly rolled from her hand onto the ground, rolling a couple of turns with a clatter, and getting covered in dust. Chen Mukyu seemed as if she couldn't read anymore, her expression dazed for a moment. It took a long time to react. I'd actually applied for a forced divorce. But why back then was he so dead set on marrying her? Even having his father use past favors to threaten her into marriage, and now playing this game of hard to get? Chen Mukyu couldn't articulate what she was feeling in her heart at this moment. As if possessed, she pushed open the door to my room, still a bit in disbelief in her heart. But looking over, the room was completely empty. All the things that belonged to him were gone. Cheng Mukyu instantly felt a bit of relief. But in her heart, there was also a secret sadness. Perhaps it's just regret over not being able to apologize for her own actions, right? Thinking this, she picked up the tanghulu, threw it into the trash can, and returned to her room. Except lying in bed, she just couldn't fall asleep, feeling an unprovoked irritability bright and early the next day. Chen Mukyu heard someone knocking on the door. Opening the door to look, found out it was Ling Ran. She realized she actually felt inexplicably somewhat disappointed. But who was she hoping it would be? She didn't know either. Lin Ran handed over the plate of steamed buns he was holding, smilingly saying, Cheng Mukyu, steamed buns I just made. Fresh out of the steamer? Hurry and taste them. Cheng Mukyu took one to taste. How is it? Lin Ran asked, anticipation shining in his eyes. Delicious. Lin Ran smiled, wanting to put the other buns on the table, but caught a glimpse of the divorce application placed on the desk. He blanked for a moment, looking back at her in shock. Cheng Mukyu. This Ju Feng divorced me. Her tone was calm. as if saying this bun is delicious. Usually on Linran's face. Joy that couldn't be suppressed appeared. Again he put down the plate and grasped her hand. I finally waited until this day. Mukyu, back then, because of your dad's favor, you had to marry Ju Feng? Now he applied for a divorce. We can finally be together. The person in front of her was too excited. Even his speaking voice had a slight tremble. Chung Muku gently patted his back, saying, yes, but a trace of strangeness flashed in her heart. The morning's interlude didn't last long, because both of them had to go to work. When Chang Mukyu arrived at the military district, she went straight to my dad's office. She didn't know whether Dad knew about my forced divorce, nor did she know his attitude towards this matter. But at the very least, she had to go give him an explanation, an account. As a result, pushing open the office door, only to find the room empty and the person gone. He had also left. A trace of astonishment flashed across Chang Mukia's face, the strangeness in her heart growing stronger. Why did both of them leave without saying goodbye? Comrade Chang, are you looking for Commander Ju? A colleague's voice came from behind. She turned around, and before she could speak, heard him continue speaking. Commander Gu and Comrade Gu Feng have both been transferred to Beijing. Strange, why didn't you go with them? Cheng Muku didn't answer, brushed past and left. Returning to her own office, she was lost in thought for a long time, not understanding why she would be so devastated. This was a good thing for her. She wouldn't have to share a room with someone she didn't love anymore, and wouldn't have to consider her dad's favors. But why did it feel like a piece was missing from her heart? In the following days, Cheng Muku kept stopping herself from thinking about Ju Feng. At the same time, Lin Ran also proposed getting back together. Cheng Muku thought about how she let him down once back then, and couldn't let him down a second time now, so she agreed. It was just that when discussing related matters, she always subconsciously thought of Ju Feng. And as the day to get the marriage certificate got closer and closer, the number of times she thought of him increased. Sometimes she would even wonder what Ju Feng's expression would be. When he got this news, would he be sad? Would he not care at all? Thinking that he might not care at all, her heart even ached for a moment. After reacting to it, she felt she must be crazy. The two were already divorced. What did all this have to do with him? Returning from another military district gathering, Chang Mukyu and Lin Ran had drunk some alcohol. The air instantly stagnated. Unbelievable expressions were on both their faces. Lin Ran wanted to open his mouth to say something, but Chung Mukyu didn't give him the chance to speak. Stepping in first to say goodbye, and locking herself in the room, she sat blankly in the room, looking at the moonlight outside the window, unable to believe that she would actually call out Ju Feng's name at a time like this. But the strangeness in her heart kept deepening, and the recent situations also kept flooding into her mind. She began to ponder the reason, just sitting blankly like this until dawn. Thinking out a result that made her incredibly shocked, she fell in love with Ju Feng, though unwilling to admit it, but the truth was indeed so. Otherwise, she couldn't explain her devastation during this recent period. Having figured all this out, Cheng Mukyu somewhat confusedly hugged her head. She actually fell in love with Ju Feng. How could she fall in love with him? She clearly hated him so much. No, she had to see him to confirm all this. Cheng Mukyu sat all night and directly went to the military district to ask for leave at daybreak. Then she bought a train ticket to Beijing and left directly. 12 hours later, Commander Gus' home in Beijing wasn't hard to find. Finding an acquaintance and asking around, she knew. After going there, knocking on the door, she didn't see Ju Feng. Only Commander Ju, who didn't welcome her very much. Cheng Muku, why did you come? Cheng Mukyu pursed her lips. Dad, why did you and he leave without saying a word? I want to see Ju Feng. Dad's face wasn't very good. Gu Feng isn't in Beijing. It's a secret transfer from the superiors. No comment. You can go. You and Ju Feng are already divorced. Don't come back again. Cheng Mukyu stopped Dad's motion to close the door. Please tell me. Otherwise, I'll keep waiting. Dad gave her a weird look. Suit yourself. Then he closed the door. Dad couldn't be bothered to care about this person who only knew to cherish after losing it, letting her stand outside, not believing she would stand for too long. Unaffected, he drank tea and read the newspaper. At night, when Dad prepared to go to sleep, he found Cheng Mukyu was still standing at the door and hadn't left. If she knew this would happen, why act like that back then? He gave a cold snort and drew the curtains. Having stood for hours, Cheng Mukyu's legs were already numb, but she couldn't retreat. This was the only chance to see Ju Feng. She definitely had to see him to seek his forgiveness. Late at night, a sudden clap of thunder exploded in the sky, followed by a torrential downpour falling. Cheng Mukyu was instantly drenched from head to toe. She still didn't move, letting the heavy rain pour down. But gradually, she felt her consciousness begin to blur. The scene before her eyes starting to spin, and then she fell straight down. After losing consciousness, Cheng Mukyu had a dream. No need to cook for me. Don't touch my things. Looking at the man in front of her with cold, disgusted eyes, the man hunched over, cleaning up the untouched meal. Cheng Mukyu blanked for a moment. Where is this? Why does the person in front of her have the same face as him, yet look so old, and with eyes that make people feel extremely uncomfortable? She wanted to get closer to clearly see who that man was. As a result, that person turned his head. Cheng Mukui blanked for a moment. It was actually Gufeng, but the person in front of her had a hunched back, an old face, and eyes completely devoid of light. Is this person really me? Why did Gufeng become like this? No one gave her an answer. The scenes in front of her kept changing. The only constant was her cold eyes. And Jufeng's disappointed expression? It was as if she lived through her entire life in a dream. At the moment Jufeng died in disappointment, she opened her eyes. Unable to recover for a long time, how could she treat Jufeng like that? Gufeng resolutely divorcing her. Was it also because he had the same dream? Awake? Commander Gus' voice sounded in her ear. Cheng Muku blanked for a moment. Before realizing she was in the hospital, tell me, why must you do this? When Jufeng was here, you didn't cherish him. Broke his heart. After he left, you came to my place seeking death. Back then, it was because I valued your character, that I wanted Jufeng to marry you. But I didn't expect it would end up like this in the end. Cheng Muku propped herself up. I'm sorry, Dad. It was me who let down your expectations. Please tell me where Jufeng went. Give me a chance to make up for my mistakes. Dad sighed helplessly. And seeing that she truly repented, he told her Jufeng's whereabouts. It turned out, not even 2 days after Gufeng returned to Beijing, he was directly given a transfer order by the superiors to go to the Hexi research base to research new types of weapons. As a researcher whose abilities reached professional level 1, Jufeng had no reason to refuse. Besides, being valued by the country was his honor. So he headed straight to Hexi. Cheng Mukyu learned of my whereabouts and didn't stay long. Returning to northern Shaanxi, she first went to make some follow-up arrangements. First of all, the first thing was to clearly tell Lin Ran her thoughts. After hearing it, Lin Ran looked at her in disbelief. His voice even carried some heartbreak. Cheng Mukyu, what kind of joke are you playing? You said you're not going to marry me anymore and want to go find Gufeng? You like him? How could you possibly like him? Cheng Mukyu pacified his emotions. I'm sorry, but matters of feelings aren't something I can control. I already understand my own heart and truly cannot marry you anymore. Delaying you for nothing? But how is this possible? Lin Ran still found it unbelievable. Cheng Mukyu normally treated Jufeng like a stranger. How could she possibly like him? I know it might be hard for you to accept for a while. What kind of compensation do you want? I can compensate you in any way. Lin Ran left crying, telling her not to regret her decision. Cheng Mukyu still stuffed some money and tickets into his hands and greeted acquaintances in the military district, asking them to look after Ling Ran a bit more. After settling Ling Ran's matters, the second thing Cheng Mukyu did was go to the cemetery to say goodbye to her parents, not knowing when she would be able to return after this departure. The third thing was explaining the situation to Uncle Duen, stuffing some money and tickets into his hands, thanking him for his years of care. Then she resolutely submitted an application, volunteering to be a sentry soldier at the base. Sitting on the train, Cheng Mukyu suddenly remembered that time she went to Lincheng. At that time, was Jufeng on the train opposite her? Her heart stirred. Clutching the address of the base in her hand, she muttered to herself, Kufeng, I'm coming to find you. 8 hours. Hexi base. Cheng Mukyu found the base, according to the address. From afar, she saw a familiar figure. 3 days ago when I landed in Hexi, a strong wind just happened to blow up. My eyes were blinded by the overwhelming yellow sand, waiting for the dust to disperse. Only then was the true face of the city revealed. Vast land with a sparse population. As far as the eye could see, wind and sand were everywhere, sparse trees drooping and scattered on the land, looking half dead. Adding a few more feelings of desolation to the city, I came out of the airport and saw the female soldier waiting outside to receive him. He walked over carrying his suitcase. The person opposite him gave him a military salute first. Excuse me, are you Comrade Jufeng? Returning a military salute in kind. I am. Hello, Comrade Zhu. My name is Zhao Xiaotong. You can call me Zhao Zhao. She gave a simple self-introduction. While leading him forward, while telling him the next arrangements, the organization sent me to pick you up. We'll first go to your residence to settle down. Then it'll take you to get familiar with the research institute and meet Commander Liu. I nodded and said, okay. In the time it took the two to talk, they had already walked to the side of a military vehicle. Zhao Xiaotong put my suitcase into the trunk and opened the back seat door for him to sit in. I didn't stand on ceremony either. Said thanks and got inside. The vehicle carried him forward. I turned my head to look at the scenery outside the window, also thinking about his next arrangements. Xingye Research Base is a key national confidential research base. What's researched inside are all new types of weapons. And him, as a professional level 1 researcher, should have been here from the start, because his father couldn't bear for him to suffer hardships. And he had also married Cheng Mukyu. He had stayed in northern Shanxi, Before coming here, he had already undergone countless background checks and also signed a non-disclosure agreement. Although dedicating himself to the country, pursuing self-value made him very excited. But within the anticipation, there was still a hidden uneasiness. Zhao Xiaodong saw him constantly looking out the window, looking as if he wasn't very interested, and took the initiative to chat with him. Don't mind that our place here is small, and the environment isn't good, but the people at the base are all very easy to get along with. I blanked for a moment, and upon reacting understood, Zhao Xiaotong probably felt that he didn't like it here. He chuckled softly. I think this place is very good. I heard that previously at the Northern Shanxi Military District. The environment there was much better than this small place, and the work you did was also leisurely. Why would you think of running to such a remote little place? Zhao Xiaotong seemingly was truly puzzled, and sighed softly after finishing speaking. I watched as the vehicle drove through a canyon again, and spoke as if lamenting. But this is the focal point of the motherland's construction. Shouldn't our lives be devoted here? Zhao Xiaotang was stunned, perhaps not knowing how to follow up on this, lowered her head, and didn't speak anymore. I pursed my lips, feeling that my tone might have been a bit too self-righteous. They are only responsible for protecting the safety of the base and researchers, but they don't even know what's being researched inside. And once they enter, they might not be able to go out for their entire lives. They would also envy the leisurely and free jobs outside. My own words were really somewhat of a moral kidnapping. I sheepishly opened my mouth to explain. I didn't mean it that way. Zhao Xiaotong seemed not to understand why he was apologizing, and spoke a bit dazedly. I didn't misunderstand anything. I just feel that Comrade Yu has a very high level of ideological awareness, worthy for us to learn from. These words made me freeze, lowering my head with an unnatural expression, even climbing up a trace of a blush. Being praised for high ideological awareness on the first day of meeting always felt weird. For the time after that, neither of the two spoke again. The vehicle soon carried the two to the research base. The guard inspected his luggage and took the pass in Zhao Xiaotong's hand. I was just about to ask Zhao Xiaotang if he would walk over himself, or if he would drive her over, when I heard the guard speak unexpectedly. Sorry, you guys cannot enter. What? Two unbelievable gasps sounded at the same time. I asked, I was transferred over here? I have a transfer order. Why can't I enter? We don't know anything about a transfer order. We only recognize passes. This pass of his is expired. He can't enter. My puzzled gaze moved from the guard's face to Zhao Xiaotong's face. Zhao Xiaotong scratched her head somewhat embarrassedly. I didn't use a pass when I went out this morning. I didn't expect that in my rush I took the wrong one, taking an expired one. Hearing her say this, I smiled helplessly. Then what do we do next? Zhao Xiaotong spoke to the guard. Please announce this for us. Tell Commander Liu that Comrade Jufeng has arrived. The guard didn't make things difficult for the two and went to announce it. Before long, someone came forward to receive them. But the person who came was not Commander Liu. It was Ku Tongzhu, the manager of the research building. Commander Liu manages the entire research base and is the highest commander here. Su Tongzhu is the second incumbent just below him, is the manager of the research building, and is also the other professional level 1 researcher here. He spoke a couple of words briefly with the guard, and we too were let through. Su Tongzhu just simply greeted the two of them, then left. Looking very busy, I stared thoughtfully at his back, but heard Zhao Xiaotong speak from the side. Comrade Su is just like this. They all jokingly call him a research maniac. He probably ran off to busy himself with research again. It doesn't mean he doesn't welcome you. I didn't think much of it either, but listening to Zhao Xiaotong's slightly comforting explanation, I naturally picked up the conversation. You seem very familiar with everyone here. Not really, just know almost everyone. I secretly admired Zhao Xiaotong's social skills, following her to my own residence, because it wasn't far. Zhao Xiaotong asked others to help her return the car to the management office, and took me walking over. I looked at the walls fully written with "must catch up" and surpass the world's advanced levels. Self-reliance and arduous struggle, endlessly touched in my heart. The two arrived at the residence. Zhao Xiaotong handed the keys to him. Comrade Yu, this is your residence. You can see what you lack later and come find me then. Right now, do you want to tidy up the room first? Or go see Commander Liu first and familiarize yourself with the base? I didn't even think about it and gave the answer. Go see Commander Liu first. So I opened the door and put the suitcase inside, then followed. Again followed Zhao Xiaotong to the commander's office. Zhao Xiaotong couldn't go in, so she waited for him downstairs. He briefly reported in, listened to the commander's encouragement and expectations for him, then went downstairs. Zhao Xiaotong stood there straight, waiting for him. Seeing him come downstairs, she hurriedly greeted him. Comrade Gu, are things all talked out? Then I'll take you for a tour of the base. I nodded. So the two of them started strolling around the research base. Zhao Xiaotang introduced things to him as they walked. This here is the cafeteria. You can come eat here for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Over here is the boiler room. There will be hot water provided, pointing to the most bustling building here. A bit of envy showed in her eyes, opening her mouth to say, "This here is the research building, and also the place where you will work from now on. But right now we can't get in. Tonight someone should come deliver your work ID to you and tell you the related matters." Following her lead, I looked up once and nodded. After the tour finished, Xiao Xiao Tang introduced some other situations to him again. This place is quite far from the city area. There will be dedicated people going out to purchase supplies. When the time comes, whatever you need, just report it directly. They will buy it and bring it back directly. Also, if there's anything else you don't know, just come directly to find me. She enjoined a whole bunch of things. I noted them down one by one. Thanked her, my favorable impression of her skyrocketing in my heart. I looked at this boundless land, secretly sighing that from now on, I would live here, would carry my ideals and ambitions, and my expectations for my future life, and live. 3 months later, once again at work, I argued fiercely with Ku Tongzhu, neither willing to give way to the other. I said this kind of attempt lacks scientific logic. This is impossible to succeed. It is a complete waste of time and resources. You haven't even tried, how do you know it won't succeed? Besides, right now, if we follow the previous research direction, we have already entered a dead end. Why not try a new one? This kind of argument happened no less than 100 times in these 3 months. Both of them were people devoted to research, and both had solid professional skills, but the two's research viewpoints were quite incompatible. I dared to try. Boldly proposed plans, was brave in innovation. Su Tongzhu was relatively conservative, unwilling to try methods that were too risky, feeling it was a waste of resources and time. This time was the same. One proposed a new research direction. Su Tongzhu disagreed, feeling there was no scientific basis, and relying entirely on his own deduction was unreliable. But I felt this had a high possibility of success anyway. The research has no progress right now. Might as well change direction and try. The two of them were just like this, neither giving way to the other. Deadlocked until lunchtime. Comrades from the group hurriedly pulled him away. "All right, Comrade Zhu, eating is important. Let's go eat first." I originally wanted to say, "I'm already full of anger," but also knew others were kindly trying to smooth things over, so I didn't say anything more, and followed him to the dining hall. Took out meal tickets and got food, but didn't have much mind to eat, my head full of making Ku Tongzhu agree to this plan. The colleague looked at him and laughed helplessly. "Stop thinking about it, Comrade Zhu. If you keep thinking, the food will get cold. You tell me about you two? Clearly both are the most outstanding researchers. How did you develop the same stubborn temper? In private, each is easier to talk to than the other. But when working, neither will give way to the other." Listening to his lament, I also sighed helplessly. He also wanted to know why Ku Tongzhu, who in private answered almost every request, was so rigid when it came to work, eating absent-mindedly. I heard the colleague speak again. "Comrade Zhu, did you ask procurement to buy anything for you this time?" Today is the day they returned to the city. I blanked. He had forgotten that Xiao Xiao Tong and the others were returning today. He nodded faintly, and heard a somewhat surprised voice from across. "This seems to be the first time I've seen. You nod on this question?" Hearing this, I chuckled softly. He indeed had never procured anything. Although every time before Xiao Xiaodong set off, she would come ask him. But every time he didn't have anything to bring. This time I didn't bring any other things either. I just asked them to bring a ball of yarn. And a crochet hook? Firstly, the weather was too cold. He wanted to knit himself a scarf, hat, and gloves to keep warm. Secondly, he also wanted to knit a pair of gloves for Xiao Xiaotong, to thank her for her care over this long period. He had nothing to give as a gift, so he could only crochet something himself. To express his gratitude, reminded by my colleague, I didn't forget this time. After work, I went to the gate to wait for the supply truck, but I didn't expect the supply truck's arrival this time to be somewhat delayed. Waited for a long time before it arrived. I followed and went up to queue, waiting for the items to be distributed. The people on the truck held the list and checked one by one, dug out my things, and handed them to me. I checked once over. No omissions. Thanked them. Turned to leave, but heard a familiar voice calling him Zhu Feng. His body froze, his brain immediately reacting. This seems to be Cheng Mukia's voice. Turning my head, I indeed saw the person wearing a military greatcoat, calling him in the crowd, Cheng Muku. He didn't know why Cheng Muki would know. His location, why she would appear here. But he didn't want to have any more intersection with her. So he turned and left, not staying. Cheng Muku saw his attitude towards her like a stranger. A dense pain surged from the bottom of her heart. Immediately raised her foot, wanting to chase after, but was stopped by the people traveling with her. Comrade Cheng, what are you going to do? The distribution task here isn't finished yet. After it's finished, we still have to go return the vehicle. He rattled off a whole bunch of tasks. Cheng Mukyu listened with a headache, but being grabbed by him, she couldn't dodge away. I had also long disappeared from her sight. Cheng Mukyu sighed, thinking she could only go find Zhu Feng later. Anyway, he was transferred here. There would be plenty of chances to meet him on the other side. I didn't take Cheng Mukia's arrival Too hard at all. It was just like seeing a stranger. It didn't cause any impact on me. Returned to my room and started his crocheting. The stove in the room had long been lit. The fire burned vigorously, making the whole room feel warm and cozy, usually on his days off. He stayed in his room alone, reading books, occasionally going out for a stroll, but due to it being too cold recently, he didn't even have the interest. To go out, now with the yarn in hand, he could crochet for a while. He started working based on how he remembered it, the yarn and crochet hook constantly flipping in his hands. Before long, the rough shape of a pair of gloves appeared. His hands kept moving, but his mind was thinking about other things. He thought that wait until next spring, when the weather gets warmer, he would go wander around the surroundings more. It said the nearby grottos are spectacular. He had always been full of praise and curiosity for the ancients' uncanny carving techniques, so he thought he'd go see them when he had time. Being here for a few months, he had already figured out the rules and regulations here. Outsiders entering here required multiple procedures to get a pass, but the research base didn't have too many restrictions on their travel. It just required submitting an application and clearly stating their destination. After all, it's a state secret. Researching all issues and actions needed to be recorded and filed. I accompanied someone else to handle it once, and already knew it inside out. Although most people found it troublesome, and all chose to stay here and not go out. But he had always had some anticipation. For this city, thinking like this, surrounded by the warm stove fire, countless waves of sleepiness struck, so he put down the things in his hand, thinking of taking a short nap at the desk. When he woke up again, he found that it was already dark outside. I secretly cried out, "Oh no." At this time, there probably weren't any dishes left in the cafeteria. He might very well have to go hungry tonight. But he still held on to a last thread of hope. Wanting to go see? Because he had always eaten at the cafeteria. He didn't have any food here, just picked up his lunchbox and meal tickets and opened the door. But saw at the door holding a lunchbox. Xiao Xiao off, about to knock. Both froze for a moment. Xiao Tang reacted first. Handed the lunchbox in her hand to me. "Comrade Ju, I saw you didn't go to the cafeteria for dinner tonight. I didn't know if you were feeling unwell." The cafeteria was about to close, so I took the initiative to bring a portion. For you, I looked at the lunchbox handed right in front of him. Hesitating to speak, Zhao Xiaotong hurriedly added a sentence. "This lunchbox is new, never been used. There was no other better way." He couldn't let himself go hungry. I took the lunchbox she handed over, said thanks, and stuffed the meal tickets in my hand to her. Zhao Xiaotong waved her hand repeatedly. "Comrade Ju, no need to be so polite. Keep these meal tickets for yourself." Seeing she wouldn't accept it, I didn't relent. Pretending to put on a stern face, I said, "Then if you don't accept it, then I can't accept this food either." Hearing him say this much, only then did Zhao Xiaotong accept the meal tickets. She advised him that the food had gotten a bit cold, told him to heat it up before eating. After advising him, she turned and left. I carried the boxed meal into the house, completely failing to notice that in the dark night, standing not far away staring at him, were eyes belonging to Chen Mukyu. Chen Mukyu stood not far away, watched this entire scene unfold. Countless waves of pain and anger surging up in her heart. In just a short 3 months, Gu Feng had already found a new love. No wonder he turned a blind eye to her, leaving without mercy back then, and turning around without mercy when seeing her again, then giving up the position of regiment commander to come here and be a lowly sentry soldier. What was the point? Giving up a superior life. What was the meaning of coming to this bitter cold place? Cheng Mukia's whole body was trembling slightly, not knowing if from the cold or from anger. Both hands clenched tightly into fists, nails almost digging into her flesh, but she felt no pain. Subconsciously, she wanted to step forward and question Ju Feng. But after taking 2 steps, she was called out to, "Comrade Cheng, it's late at night. What are you doing here? This side is the researcher's residence. Our residence is on the other side." Cheng Muku turned around, found out it was the person who returned from delivering supplies with her today. For a moment, she didn't react on how to answer him, so she just didn't speak. Luckily, that person found an excuse for her himself. "Are you newly arrived? Unfamiliar with the place, so you took the wrong path?" Chang Muku went along with the excuse, nodding yes. "Yeah, I'm sorry. Caused you trouble?" That person laughed heartily, stepped forward, and patted her shoulder. "No, what trouble is this? It'll just take you over. But you have to remember, don't randomly come to this side in the future. Especially these few rooms, all male comrades live here." "Okay, I remember." That person didn't say anything more either, leading Cheng Mukyu to walk towards another direction. Unlike the red brick house where I live, Cheng Mukyu's residence is a mud brick house, and that entire area of theirs has the same layout. Some even with 2 or multiple people to a room. Cheng Mukyu followed that person to her own residence. By pure coincidence, she shares a room with Xiao Xiaotong. Currently, only her room has an empty bed. Xiao Xiaotong didn't know about her and me, and didn't expect that she considered herself an imaginary enemy. Seeing someone come in, she greeted her. Comrade Cheng? What a coincidence. You're living with me? When Mukyu saw her, she thought of the scene she saw at my door just now, responded with an unhappy grunt. Xiao Tong found it somewhat strange. Someone who clearly chatted very harmoniously with her on the supply truck. How come after returning to the base, her attitude towards her was so cold? But she didn't mind it, just assuming she was in a bad mood. When Chung Mukyu arrived in the city, just when she was worrying about how to get to the research base, she ran into Xiao Tong and other comrades who were there to procure supplies. After some communication between them, Cheng Mukyu showed them her documents and transfer order. Xiao Tong then brought her back together with them. On the way, the two chatted very happily, very much having the feeling of regretting not having met sooner. Xiao Tong wasn't gossipy, didn't pry into privacy. The well-paced chatting made Cheng Mukyu very comfortable. She thought the two could become very good friends, but she didn't expect. As soon as she returned, she saw this scene between her and me. For the first time, Cheng Mukyu sized up Xiao Tong, stared at her for a long time, but also didn't find her having anything special. Her appearance wasn't outstanding. Compared to herself, it was even further off. No matter how she looked at it, she wouldn't be the type I would like. She couldn't help but feel that she was overthinking it. Perhaps the two were just friends, but would friends interact the way they did? Cheng Mukyu was unwilling to think deeply, just feeling extremely irritated. She lay in bed for a long time, without a trace of sleepiness, listening to Xiao Tong's steady breathing, and didn't dare to turn over. Afraid of disturbing her sleep, just like this, she kept her eyes open until dawn. A few days later, Cheng Mukyu went to stand guard at the gate of the research building according to the schedule. From afar, she saw me walking towards her with a tall and handsome researcher. The two were talking and laughing, looking like they had a very good relationship. Are they friends? He came here and made a new friend. But Cheng Mukyu wouldn't get the answers to these. She became even more irritated, because she found that right now she knew nothing about me. She suppressed her anger and greeted the two. Good morning. I just nodded and walked inside. The researcher with me, however, politely returned a good morning, then quickly caught up to walk with me. Kutangju looked at my cold attitude and couldn't help but be a bit curious. In his impression, I was a very gentle and polite person. When meeting people, I was always the first to greet. Abnormal things must have a cause. His attitude towards this sentry soldier made his intuition tell him something was going on between the two. But he was not a curious and gossipy person. If Jufeng didn't say, he wouldn't ask either. The argument from last time ended with Commander Liu making the final decision, deciding to let Jufeng try according to his plan. Kutangju didn't say anything more either. The matter had already been decided, so he earnestly did his best. As soon as the two entered the building, they went to busy themselves with their respective matters. Without other matters, generally no intersection would occur. Every day's research tasks were dull, but also required highly concentrated attention. By the time I got off work, I was already exhausted. When coming out from the door, not seeing Chen Mukyu, I quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Although she now couldn't cause any impact on my mood, but the look in her eyes when she looked at me could easily let others figure something out. And he was too lazy to explain. Didn't want others to know about that past. So seeing her gave him a bit of a headache. Fortunately, she wasn't here today. Returned to the room, he looked at the desk, at that already finished crocheted pair of gloves, thinking about how to give it to Xiao's home. He hadn't seen her for this period of time, and didn't know what she was busy with. To have him go to Xiaoting's room himself to find her, he also felt embarrassed. Just as he was conflicted, he heard someone knocking on the door, speak of Cao. And Cao arrives. The moment I opened the door and saw Xiao Tang, this proverb appeared in my mind, and I couldn't help but chuckle softly. Xiao Tong was totally confused, and asked uncertainly, Comrade Zhu, what are you laughing at? Reacting, I immediately shook my head. Comrade Xiao, you came at a good time. I have a gift to give you. Saying that, I turned around and went back into the room to get the item. Receiving the gloves, Xiao Tong somewhat couldn't believe it. Shock and joy mixed on her face. But ultimately joy won out. Asking uncertainly, is this for me? I nodded. But why are you giving me this? Thank you for your care. During these days I've troubled you so much, but you never had any complaints or impatience, always patiently helping me solve his problems. Really, thank you very much. Xiao shouted. Hound, listening to his thanks, embarrassedly lowered her head, softly saying, these are all things I should do. Comrade, you don't have to be like this. She said this, but her hands didn't stop at all. Immediately putting on the gloves to try, they fit very well. Thank you, Comrade Zhu. This is the first time someone gave me a gift. Seeing my own gift, being liked by others, I was also very happy. I haven't fully learned my mother's craft. It's not knitted very well. Please, don't mind. Shout. Haim waved her hands repeatedly. I want. It's already very good. Then she added a sentence with a dim expression. I've never even met my mom. I blanked, not knowing how to comfort her. But she herself quickly changed the subject. Almost forgot the main matter. Today, they are having a table tennis match. Aren't you going to participate? Life in the base was simple, but not shabby. According to Xiao Xiaotang, everyone often gathered to play table tennis after work, or basketball and the like. But because it was quite cold in winter, they hadn't played for a long time. Didn't expect they actually organized a match tonight. My eyes lit up and nodded. So the two walked towards the table tennis hall. Xiao Xiaotang looked at me walking in front, the emotions in her eyes complex and conflicted. As soon as the two left, Cheng Mukia's figure appeared in the same spot. She originally came to find Zhu Feng to talk now, but didn't expect to stumble upon that scene. Saying Xiaotang, delivering food to him, is help between friends. Then what did it mean for Zhu Feng to give someone gloves? Cheng Muku didn't want to admit it, but had to admit it. Gu Feng seemed to have already fallen in love with someone else. The dull ache in her heart turned into a sharp knife, twisting so painfully she couldn't breathe. Her hands hanging by her sides trembled uncontrollably. She didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go. It was as if her brain had lost the ability to think, just standing rigidly in place, not knowing how long she stood there. By the time she reacted, I had already appeared in front of her again. When I saw Cheng Muku standing in front of my own door, I blanked for a moment. Not because of her appearance, but because of her left-the-body state, cursed inwardly. A whole day's good mood was completely destroyed at this moment, but I still went up to her and asked in a bad mood, "What are you here for?" Cheng Muku originally wanted to have a good talk with him about the problems between the two, but she didn't know if there was still a need to talk now, so she stared at him blankly. Not speaking. Since she didn't speak, I was even less bothered to pay attention, wanting to just bypass her and go straight inside. At the moment the door was about to close, I heard Chen Mukia's trembling voice. "Gu Feng, let's talk." I wanted to say I had nothing to talk to her about, but also felt some things were better made clear. Otherwise, if Cheng Muku kept blocking him at the base, he wouldn't be able to stand it either. So I let Cheng Muku into the house. "Come in and talk." Cheng Muku followed him into the house and sat down. I handed her a cup of tea. "Just say whatever you want to say." "Gu Feng, before it was my fault, I apologize to you. There's no need to bring up the past anymore. Besides, there's nothing wrong. Not loving someone is not your fault either. It's just me who saw things clearly too late." Hearing this, Cheng Muku became anxious. "It's not like that. I love you." I was stunned, then laughed out loud. "What did you say?" Cheng Muku explained in a low voice. "Gu Feng, I do love you. It's just that I saw it clearly too late myself, until you left. Only then did I realize I had fallen in love with you long ago. I've also made things clear with Lin Ran. It's all my fault. I was too foolish. My expression was somewhat complicated. Are you saying you've now discovered the one you love isn't Lin Ran, but me? So you ran over here also for me?" "Yes, Zhu Feng. I know I've done too many wrong things. Can you give me a chance to make up for it?" She looked at me with eyes full of deep affection. A mocking smile pulled at the corners of my mouth. "But Cheng Muku, I haven't loved you for a long time." His love had long been worn out day by day. In her cold gazes, an open and honest conversation shattered all of Cheng Mukia's hopes. Her mind was full of my phrase, "haven't loved you for a long time." How could that be? How could I say such cruel words? Someone who clearly loved her so much, how could he suddenly not love anymore? Her thoughts were flying in chaos, feeling her limbs and bones all clamoring in pain. When she returned to the residence, her face looked extremely poor, giving Zhao Xiaocang a fright. She hurriedly pulled the person to sit on the bed, handed her a cup of hot water, and asked with concern in her voice, "Comrade Cheng, are you okay?" Cheng Muku got angry upon seeing her face, but tried her best to tell herself the matters between the two of them shouldn't drag others into it. So with a not very good expression, she told her she was fine, handed the cup to her, and lay down. Zhao Xiaotang originally wanted to ask if she needed to take her to the infirmary, but seeing her like this, she didn't say anything either, turned off the lights and went to sleep. At night, it started snowing without realizing. When waking up in the morning, a thick layer had already accumulated, but the snow still showed no intention of stopping. I added another layer of clothes. Before putting on a scarf and gloves, preparing to go to work, the moment I pushed the door open, the silver makeup wrapping the whole ground dazzled my eyes. He suddenly remembered. In his past life, he always wanted to watch a snow with Cheng Muku, but it was never realized. He actually didn't have an obsession with snow, but those people in the military family compound always said, if getting caught in the snow together, it can be considered growing old together, making him add a touch of romantic color to snow for no reason. But now he smiled bitterly. Compared to romance, he still felt roads without snow were much easier to walk on. This slipping one step backwards for every 3 steps forwards simply made him want to die. Bone-chilling cold weather. Slippery roads hard to travel on. Who exactly is it that likes this snowy day? When he was about to slip and fall for the 3rd time, his resentment towards snowy days reached its peak. Passing a downhill road, I carefully inched forward step by step. But still, because of being careless, almost took a tumble. Luckily, someone supported him from behind, just as he wanted to turn around and thank them, resulting in catching a glimpse that the person behind was Chang Muku. So he pulled his hand out. Chang Muku noticed his movement and smiled bitterly. Even under this kind of situation, he didn't want to have any contact with her either. She felt as if her heart was being sliced into pieces. The pain of 1,000 cuts made her somewhat unable to breathe. But seeing that he was about to fall again, she still couldn't help but reach out to support him, but didn't expect a hand supported me before hers. "Comrade, you, be careful." Zhao Xiaotong quick-wittedly supported me, saving him from falling. Seeing the person coming was her. I smiled and thanked her. This section of the road is quite slippery, and there are no walls to hold on to. If it really doesn't work, we too can support each other. I'll walk a section. Once we get to that flat road, it will be easier to walk. The previous few times it was just a thin layer of snow. By the time I went out, it had already been trampled almost away by everyone. Therefore, he didn't expect. This road with thick snow would be so hard to walk on. It was really hard for one person to get down this slope, so I agreed to Xiao Xiaotong's proposal. After thanking her again, grabbing her sleeve, the two walked forward. Chang Mukyu stood in place blankly watching this scene, until the two reached flat ground, my figure disappearing around the corner. She still hadn't recovered her senses. Her eyes were stung red, both hands gripping tightly, not moving a single step. My attitude towards her and others was completely different. He was very friendly to everyone here, full of smiles. In just a few months, he managed his interpersonal relationships impeccably. When everyone mentioned him, they all said Comrade Gu was gentle and polite. His personality also enthusiastic. Whoever married him would simply be blessed. Every time she heard these words, she felt like a knife was piercing her heart. She had briefly possessed him, but seemed to have lost him forever. Being together for so many years, the final result was actually a forced divorce. Ju Feng even came here hiding it from her. And in Ju Feng's eyes, when looking at her, there was completely no love. It was a coldness, even more unfamiliar than looking at a stranger. Every time she thought of this, Cheng Mukyu wished she could slap herself a few times. Why was she so dense? She remembered Ju Feng smilingly cooking for her in the past, but his disappointed expression when she didn't touch a bite, he wanting to be intimate with her, but the sound of being stung back by her cold gaze. Even after deciding to divorce, he still considered her mother's entrustment, unwilling to let her take risks. But what did she do? All she said were bastard words. She didn't even dare to recall that scene back then. Every time she thought about it, her entire heart would clench in pain. Still blatantly treating Lin ran well in front of him. Caring for Lin ran everywhere. In front of outsiders, she hadn't given this official husband the respect he deserved. Just like this. Day by day hurting that passionate heart until it was riddled with holes. These scenes flashed through her mind one by one. Chung Mukyu really wanted to travel back and stop it. To tell her not to treat me like this, but she couldn't do it. The matter had already happened. The harm had already been caused. All she could do now was make up for it. Endlessly making up for it, hoping that one day she could get Ju Feng's forgiveness. I went to the workshop and greeted everyone, then went all the way to the back to find Kutangshu. Kutangshu was sitting inside as usual, looking at yesterday's research report. Seeing him come in, a gentle smile arose on his face, greeting him. Was the road hard to walk on today? I remembered my slipping one step backwards for every 3 steps forwards today, and helplessly nodded. Quite hard to walk. Kutangshu chuckled softly. Pay more attention to safety from now on. Being a few minutes late to work doesn't matter. I nodded to show I understood. The simple pleasantries ended, and the two didn't start chatting idly again, but talked about work matters. Sutongzhu showed him yesterday's experimental data. It was completely different from the last result. It was another set of useless data. Multiple experimental results had no similarities. That is to say, the research direction was wrong again. Both of them were somewhat silent. He argued strongly on logical grounds last time, holding great hope for this research direction, but unexpectedly, it was still the same result. They failed again. Although they all say countless failures are needed in exchange for the final success. The process of countless failures can be said to be quite tormenting. Ku Tongzhu, seeing him like this, didn't forget. I told you it wouldn't work. You have to kick him while haze down and mock him and everything. But instead, comforted him softly. Actually, we can't say we gained nothing, right? At least we eliminated a wrong direction. If you don't know how to comfort people, you don't have to. When the group member who came to deliver materials heard this, he really wanted to tell Ku Tongzhu this. But the experimental results were not good. Everyone was in a bad mood. The group member didn't say anything more, put the things down, and went out. For the whole morning, the two were feeling low in the office. Couldn't think of a new direction. Also couldn't find new progress. Rarely, when the two were in the same office. There was no arguing. So quiet, it seemed like no one was there. At noon, Tongzhu asked him if he wanted to go eat together. Along with 2 female comrades, he agreed. So the two of them went to the dining hall together. I usually ate with comrades from the group, Most of the time, I was with Ku Tongju. This time, although there were two unfamiliar female comrades, at first he didn't think much of it. But as more and more appraising gazes were cast their way, I felt uncomfortable all over. Ku Tongju was completely unaffected, focusing on his food, occasionally chatting with him about some ideas that suddenly popped up. Gradually, I also stopped paying attention to others, devoting myself entirely to their discussion. The two chatted enthusiastically, constantly brainstorming, sparking continuous inspiration, providing each other with new ideas constantly. Soon, those appraising gazes disappeared. The only one left was Chang Mukius. She sat in the corner, looking at the two chatting and laughing cheerfully. The chopsticks in her hands almost snapped from her grip. Why didn't she notice before that I was so popular with the opposite sex? He could chat so joyfully with any woman, except herself. Chung Mukyu suddenly realized. In the past, he also rarely chatted with her. And most of the time, when the two chatted, it was unpleasant. She seemed to rarely see me looking so joyful like this. When he was with her, he always seemed to carefully suppress his emotions. Guessing her temperamental preferences, even when doing the most intimate things, it was always her feelings first. Yet she seemingly rarely considered his feelings, relying on his love to do whatever she pleased. Some things shouldn't be thought about too deeply. The more she thought about it, the more shocked she became. She actually couldn't find in her memory a single trace of having treated him well in the past. She couldn't figure out what kind of medicine she had taken in the past to actually be able to turn a blind eye to all this, driving someone who loved her so deeply, to the point of divorcing her without hesitation. The two's discussion was still ongoing, but Chang Mukyu couldn't bear to keep watching. Those gentle gazes that once belonged exclusively to her were now given to anyone, except her. She got up and left the cafeteria. The weather outside was still incredibly bright, but in Chang Mukia's heart, countless dark clouds had accumulated, seemingly ready to pour down on her at any moment. To wash away all she had, she stared blankly into the distance, suddenly feeling her hope of winning me back was simply slim. A lunch intertwined with discussions ended. My decadent mood had disappeared, and I became full of drive again. When the two returned to the workshop in the afternoon, comrades in the group all suspected the two had been secretly swapped. The lifelessness of the morning. They were completely different people. Not only did I quickly adjust my own mood, I also motivated everyone's mood. He gathered everyone for a short meeting, encouraging everyone not to be discouraged and not to give up. The current difficulties can definitely be overcome, and future victory definitely belongs to us. An inspiring speech had a very good effect. When everyone came out of the meeting room, every single one was full of drive. Since this path led to a dead end, then changed to another path and walk. Everyone started brainstorming and researching materials again, striving to find a correct path soon. As long as the direction is correct, then the rest is just a matter of time. The difficult part is this direction. People had been searching one after another for so many years, and still hadn't found it. Days always silently slipped away through the fingers inadvertently. By the time I noticed, that patch of cottonwood trees successfully cultivated at the base had already sprouted new branches and buds. Spring had arrived. He had looked forward to spring for a long time. When the weather got warm, he could go out and stroll around this land. But he didn't expect before his own activities could start. The base's activities started first. In the winter, it was too cold. Everyone could only occasionally gather together to secretly play cards, or do some simple indoor exercises. After the weather warmed up, all recreational activities could be brought out. First to take the lead were the people from the logistics department, notifying everyone that they could watch an open-air movie together at night. They would find an empty space to set up a screen after dinner. This was undoubtedly something everyone liked. Those few female comrades in the group started talking about it excitedly from the morning, unable to hide it. I also really liked watching movies, especially this kind where everyone gathers together to watch, having a uniquely peaceful atmosphere. It would make him feel particularly comfortable after dinner. When he carried his small stool to the venue, a lot of people had already gathered. Everyone held their own sunflower seeds or other snacks, sharing them together. A bunch of people gathered together, chatting excitedly. Children running and playing in the distance. I felt this atmosphere was particularly good. In his past life, he also liked it most when in the military family compound. The time spent watching movies together, but later, as society developed, most families had televisions. This kind of movie viewing was rarely organized, and the relationships between everyone grew distant. Everyone immersed in their own worlds. People became cold to one another. Comrade Ju, these are sunflower seeds our family roasted ourselves. Do you want a handful? The sudden voice brought him back to his senses. Looking at the completely unfamiliar face in front of him, a smile pulled at the corners of his mouth, grabbed a handful of sunflower seeds and thanked them. The movie was about to start playing. He felt someone sit next to him, turning his head to look. It was Chang Mukyu. He didn't say anything, moved his stool a bit to the side. Chang Mukyu didn't follow him over either. Didn't even turn her head to look at me, her eyes constantly staring fixedly at the screen in front. Only the hands that kept clenching tightly revealed the turmoil in her heart. She knew she actually shouldn't have come up. I'd already stated directly, hoping she wouldn't disturb his life anymore, and she shouldn't try to get close anymore. But Chang Mukyu just couldn't do it. She hesitated and wavered in the back for a long time. Finally, right at the moment before the movie started, she moved her stool up. But without surprise, I moved away again. I was only paying attention to Chang Mukyu over here, but didn't expect that by shifting 2 steps over. I was almost shoulder to shoulder with Xiao Xiao Tong. Xiao Xiao Tong noticed this, and hurriedly shifted a little bit that way, so as not to make him too uncomfortable. He gave Xiao Xiao Tong a grateful look. Xiao Xiao Tong leaned close to his ear and asked softly, "Comrade Gu, did you and Comrade Cheng know each other before?" I shook my head, don't know her. Then is there some conflict between you two? Why do I feel like you take a detour every time you see her? I shook my head again. No, you're mistaken. The two spoke in very low voices. But Chang Mukyu had excellent hearing. Every single word entered her ears without missing a beat. I am trying my best to stay away from her, not wanting to be associated with her at all, nor wanting others to know about our past. That Zhu Feng who used to show off, his wife wherever he went, saying she was the most formidable regiment commander Cheng's person, was gone. Zhu Feng didn't want our future, and didn't even want our past either. The movie ended quickly. I watched it with great relish, and after it ended, I even discussed the plot with Xiao Xiao Tong. Cheng Mukyu, on the other hand, didn't absorb any of it. Her mind entirely consumed with thinking about how to make me forgive her. After this period of time, she no longer expected to be able to bring the person back. As long as I didn't hide from her, she would be satisfied. Looking at the two still chatting enthusiastically after it ended, Cheng Mukyu's feeling of displeasure flared up again. Walking over and pulling Xiao Xiao Tong up. "Comrade Xiao, the movie has already ended. Let's quickly go back and wash up." I looked at Xiao Xiao Tong being suddenly pulled up, not knowing what crazy spell Cheng Mukyu was having again. In the past, when he chased after her, she gave him the cold shoulder. Ignored him, he went along with her wishes. Divorced, and then she chased him all the way here. Had an open and honest talk to make things clear, but she still wouldn't leave, and loitered around him every day. Why didn't he notice before that Cheng Mukyu had such an annoying side? Looking at that face he used to be incredibly infatuated with, now the more he looked, the more annoyed he became. He got up, said goodbye to Xiao Xiao Tong, and returned to his room. The next day when I walked to the research building, I found it was Cheng Mukyu standing guard again. He sighed helplessly, ignored her all the same, walked into the building, greeted the various members of the group, and devoted himself entirely to work. That deep talk with Kutongzhu had some effect. The two groped towards a new direction, and recently started trying continuously. If successful, it might not be far from completing the task. When immersed in work, I was quite focused, concentrating fully on recording data. When having no time to pay attention to anything else, time also flew by quickly. By the time I reacted, lunchtime had already passed. It was only when a comrade in the group returned from eating and greeted him that he realized he had missed lunch. He actually wasn't hungry, so he simply didn't eat. Having stood here blankly all morning, he needed to go out and breathe some fresh air. But just as he reached the door, he saw Cheng Mukyu holding a lunchbox, waiting downstairs. Seeing him come out, she hurried forward to meet him. "Gufeng, I saw you haven't come downstairs today. You definitely must have missed lunch. So I packed a portion for you." She handed over the lunchbox she was holding. I didn't take it, and even took a step back to create distance. "Thank you, but I'm not hungry." My attitude was as cold as ever. Cheng Mukyu's eyes showed disappointment for a moment, but she quickly adjusted her emotions, smiling as she said to him, "How can you not eat? You should eat at least a little. These are all things you like." I was truly helpless, took a deep breath, and opened my mouth. "Cheng Mukyu, I've told you not to appear in front of me again. What exactly do you want? I was just afraid you'd be hungry, so I brought you some food. What did I do wrong? Why can you eat what Xiao Xiao Ang brings, but not what I bring?" Cheng Mukyu was extremely irritated by his state, and blurted it out. After saying it, she immediately realized it was wrong, and hurriedly apologized. "I'm sorry, Zhu Feng. I didn't mean that." I looked at her in shock, only leaving behind the word unreasonable, then turned and left. Leaving Cheng Mukyu alone standing in place, hugging the lunchbox, she felt a trace of pain coming from her stomach. Lifted her clothes, took a look. A large area was red. Actually, in this weather, it's already not easy for food to get cold, but Cheng Mukyu still wanted him to have hot food. In order to keep the lunchbox warm, she brought it over, clutching it inside her clothes the whole way. But I was too lazy to even take a look. Cheng Mukyu felt somewhat sad, but also felt she deserved this. Compared to what have suffered these years, his attitude towards her was already considered a blessing. She shouldn't ask for too much anymore, taking it one step at a time. There will eventually come a day when the ice between the two breaks. Cheering herself up secretly in her heart, Cheng Mukyu hugged the lunchbox and returned to the residence. The weather warmed up. The previous plans could be put on the agenda. I submitted an application to go out on my day off, and an application to use a 28 bicycle. There were a few 28 bicycles parked in the unit's bicycle shed, prepared specifically for the convenience of their travel. Whoever wanted to use one just submitted an application and went to write it. I've wanted to see the grottos for a long time, and inquired with colleagues beforehand. The advice they gave was to ride a bike over. A round trip could be made in a day. When handing the report to Kutangju asked routinely, "What are you going out to do? And what time will you be back?" "Just to stroll around the nearby grottos. You'll come back when I'm done." After a simple inquiry, Kutangju nodded and stamped it for him. Then began the concern between friends. "Do you know the location? If you go alone, it wouldn't be good to get lost." Colleagues in the group gave me a rough description of the location. "I won't get lost." I responded to his concern. Just as he turned around wanting to leave, Kutangju stopped him. "I suddenly remembered I just happened to have business over there. If you don't mind, let's go together tomorrow." Of course, one don't mind. Having a familiar person around even further avoided the possibility of his getting lost. The two agreed just like this. When I came out of the building, my mood was very good, especially when seeing this cloudless sky for miles. Before walking a few steps, Xiao Tong also walked up. "What's making you so happy?" I answered truthfully. "Going to play at the grottos tomorrow?" Upon hearing this, Xiao Tong's eyes showed excitement. "Tomorrow, I'm going to run errands with Comrade Ku. Can I travel with you?" I naturally agreed. "Then perfect. Let's go together." After making the agreement, he prepared to go back, but didn't expect, after taking a few steps forward, the smile on his face abruptly stopped. Cheng Muku was standing not far away waiting for him. I sighed helplessly, not understanding why Cheng Muku was always hauntingly lingering. He felt he had already spoken clearly enough, and in his impression, Cheng Muku wasn't someone who would pester endlessly either. She disdained this the most, wanted to just ignore her, and walk past. But Cheng Muku spoke first. "I heard you submitted an application to go out. Where are you going?" News certainly travels fast. I couldn't help but ponder secretly. The words spoken didn't leave her any face. "Comrade Cheng, this matter has nothing to do with you, right?" Cheng Muku choked for a moment, and explained in a low voice, "I have no other intentions. Just worried that you alone in an unfamiliar place might be in danger." "You don't need to worry about that. I'm not alone, and won't be in danger." After speaking, I didn't pay attention to her anymore, and left on my own. Cheng Muku wanted to ask him why he wasn't alone. Who was he going with? But every question stuck in her throat. Could only watch that bright figure leave. But she had already gotten an application approved by her superiors. Preparing to go out with him tomorrow? Faintly hiding the intention of the two being alone together, but mostly still worried about his safety. The next day, when Cheng Muku pushed her bicycle out, she only saw me. Kutangju and Xiao Tong's backs retreating into the distance together. Cheng Muku's hands gripped the handlebars tightly. Using so much force, it seemed like she was going to wring the handlebars off. I was completely unaware that Cheng Muku was following behind him, just moving forward according to the original plan. Traveling with Kutangju was very pleasant. At work, Kutangju was like a scientific research maniac, but in life, he was very humorous and interesting. Various jokes and two-part allegorical sayings he heard emerged endlessly, making Xiao Tong and me laugh uncontrollably. The three of them passed one hill after another, and finally saw a village. Having traveled all this way, the three were already incredibly thirsty, so they asked for a cup of water to drink, chatted a few sentences with the villagers speaking a dialect, and then continued their journey. The road to the grottos wasn't considered very far. It was just that the road section was uneven, not very easy to travel on. Even though my cycling skills were up to par, I still rode until I was covered in sweat. He parted ways with Kutangju and Xiao Tong at the fork in the road. Before leaving, Kutangju asked with concern, "Comrade Ju, until what time will you stroll around? Do you need me to come meet up with you after I finish my business? And then we can go back together?" I shook my head. "No need, I've already memorized the route. I can go back by myself." Hearing this, Kutangju didn't insist, just reminded him to go back early, and rode away. I finally arrived at the grottos at noon, had a simple meal at a small shop nearby, and then entered the grottos alone. Countless caves were like individual time capsules, all telling the stories of this place, containing endless charm. The murals also had a wide range of subjects, rich and diverse in content. For a moment, I was entranced watching. He had heard his mom tell countless stories about this place, but none were nearly as shocking as seeing it with his own eyes. Mom's ancestral home was right here. But later she followed Dad making a living away from home, and rarely returned home. More than once he saw Mom sitting by the window looking at the moon. When he was little, he asked his mom curiously, "What are you looking at?" "Looking at the moon? What's so good to look at about the moon? In the moon you can see the people you miss. You can see home." Later, he finally knew. Mom was homesick. Missing that home she rarely could go back to later on. He knew Mom actually really wanted to go back and take a look. But Dad's work was too busy, to the extent that when she passed away, she still couldn't go back to take another look at the home she cared about in her heart. So Mom tirelessly told him about these stories of the Gobi Desert, telling stories about murals and grottos, making him grow a lot of yearning, thinking that one day he definitely must come take a look. To see this place where his mom had lived, now he finally arrived here, finally saw this place with his own eyes. This place was indeed just as Mom had said, possessing infinite charm and attraction. While I was intoxicated by the art, Chang Muku silently arrived outside the grottos. She didn't go in. She knew I would be unhappy to see her, so she didn't go be an eyesore to him. But no matter how much I hated her, she wouldn't leave him alone. In this unfamiliar place, she was worried about my safety. Even though she was angry seeing him traveling with others, she still followed without hesitation. Otherwise, if something were to happen to me, she would regret it for life. The days of keeping watch outside were very uncomfortable. Countless mosquitoes constantly bit her, as if she was the only blood bag nearby. She also had to constantly observe the situation, in case I came out and walked away myself, when she wasn't paying attention, and she even had to guard against him discovering her. Otherwise, I would definitely get angry again. Moreover, might use strong measures to make her stop following, then this trip of hers would be in vain. I accidentally stayed in the grottos for a long time. By the time I came out, the setting sun had already sunk in the west. He secretly thought, this is bad. Originally planned to just take a quick look and go back. Didn't expect to be so absorbed in looking that he forgot the time. So he hurriedly rode his bike to head back. As he moved, the setting sun sank even lower in the west. So he anxiously quickened his pace. But unexpectedly, he hit a small dirt mound and crashed the bike logically. Crashing a 28 bicycle wouldn't cause any harm. Just pick up the bike, get on and go. But the bad thing was that I was going a bit too fast just now. So much that I sprained my ankle when I crashed. A piercing pain came from my ankle. He was sweating profusely from the pain. Just when he was at a loss, an anxious voice shouted, "Ju Feng." Then came the sound of throwing a bicycle down and running wildly. I barely raised my head and saw Chung Mukia's anxious face entering my view. "Gu Feng, how are you? Where are you hurt?" She moved the bicycle that was pressing on me away, supporting him, planning to help him up. "Can you stand up?" I tried following her lead. A piercing pain made him cry out in pain. Chung Mukyu didn't dare to move him carelessly anymore, having him sit back down on the spot. I sat and rested for a while, feeling it wasn't as painful anymore before speaking. Probably sprained my ankle. It's not a big deal. Just need to rest a bit. While Chung Mukyu waited for him to catch his breath, she quickly calculated the distance in her mind, and finally decided, let's turn back. That village inside might have a doctor. Let's check it out first. But if we turn back, it's very likely we won't make it back tonight. Even if we don't make it back, at least there's a place to stay. With your current condition, you can't ride a bicycle anyway, right? I couldn't argue. In the end, it became a scene of Chang Mukyu giving him a ride on the bike, while he sat on the back seat holding onto the other moving bike. Although this wasn't very safe, the unit's bike couldn't be left here. If the bike got stolen, that would be a big problem. In order for me not to fall off the back seat, Chang Mukyu could only ride slower and slower. Thus, a lot of time was wasted on what was originally not a long distance. By the time the two reached the village, the sky had already gone dark. Many villagers had already packed up to sleep. Chang Mukyu could only find a house that was still lit and knock. "Hello, we are passing through. May I ask?" If it's convenient to open the door, after a few knocks, the door was opened from the inside. A man carrying a kerosene lamp sized up the two. Speaking in a dialect, he opened his mouth. "What are you doing?" Chang Mukyu blinked for a moment, then answered, "Comrade, we are passing through." He accidentally sprained his ankle. I wanted to ask if there's a doctor in the village who can take a look. After Chang Mukyu explained sincerely, the man sized up their faces back and forth again, before welcoming the two inside. "Come into the house first. It's dark and very cold outside. You two are lucky. Good thing the barefoot doctor who came to treat people didn't leave. Let me go call the doctor to take a look at you." After speaking, he went to another room to call someone. Although I struggled to listen, I barely managed to understand, knowing that person went to call a doctor for him, so I sat on a stool and waited quietly. Soon, a doctor came in carrying a medical box, his clothes just draped over his shoulders, looking like he was ready to sleep but was called up again. I apologized embarrassedly. "Sorry for disturbing you late at night." The doctor waved his hand. "What are you saying?" Saving lives and helping the wounded is naturally a doctor's bounden duty. Hearing him say this, I didn't say anything more, just returned a smile. The doctor pressed simply a few times on his ankle, asking about the pain condition. I answered one by one. The doctor nodded, then gave a result. "It's dislocated. It'll be fine once it's set back." Saying that his hands began to move with a crack, I felt I was suffocated by the pain for a moment. Even forgetting to scream, Chang Mukyu watched his simple and crude method. A cry of, "Wait a moment," wasn't even shouted out before it was over. Then she saw my expression twisted in pain. She hurriedly leaned over, asking, "Are you okay? Ju Feng, where does it hurt?" I was in so much pain, I simply couldn't answer her question. Instead, it was the doctor who spoke. It's fine, this is all normal. Just for this moment. Once the pain passes, he can walk normally. After a long time, I felt like I finally found my senses. Let out a long sigh. Get up and try. See if there's anywhere else that's uncomfortable. The doctor saw he had recovered his breath, so he spoke to him. Cheng Muku then helped the person up. I tried moving. Found out it really didn't hurt anymore. So he pushed Cheng Mukia's hand away, walked 2 steps forward by himself. Confirming he could move normally, hurriedly turned to thank the doctor. Thank you, doctor. It doesn't hurt anymore, and there's nowhere uncomfortable. The doctor nodded. Be careful recently. Don't cause a secondary dislocation. Okay, I will be careful. The sprained ankle problem was solved. So I got up to say goodbye to the few people. Thank you all for today. It's getting late. We won't disturb you any longer. Chen Mukyu was stunned. You want to leave now? I nodded. Chen Mukyu looked outside at the sky and advised, how about we go back tomorrow? No, the applied time is today. Going back tomorrow might result in disciplinary action. I shook my head firmly. He didn't want to get disciplined himself, and even less did he want to, because of himself, cause Chen Mukyu to get disciplined. So it was best to go back today. But Chen Mukyu wouldn't give way on this issue at all. It's very unsafe to go back now. On the other side, the doctor also helped advise him. This comrade, the female comrade, is right. Going out at this hour is too unsafe. There might even be wild wolves in the woods. Even if you get disciplined, that's still better than losing your life. I just wanted to say there wouldn't be any. But as if to cooperate with the doctor's words, the howl of an unknown animal came from afar, making my hair stand on end listening to it. He was an extremely rule-abiding person. From childhood to adulthood, putting orders first, enclosing himself within rules to survive. But in this situation now, it seemed they could only go back tomorrow. The doctor was right, even if they got punished. It was still better than losing their lives. So the 2 of them stayed at this house. The villagers' own house had to mud brick, rooms, and there were no extra kongs. That could be cleared out for the 2 to sleep on. I didn't mind either. Having a place to stay was enough. It was always a bit better than freezing outside. Finally decided to sit in the kitchen for the night. The honest and simple man kept apologizing in dialect, saying he let them suffer wrongs. Normally, they might go to another house to find a place to sleep for the night. But right now, they were all asleep. It would be embarrassing to go disturb them. Listening to his words, I waved my hands repeatedly. It was already them who rashly arrived and disturbed him, but his constant apologies to him made him very flustered. You being able to give us such a place of shelter is already very good. We are very thankful. Finally, after some back and forth, sent the man away, leaving only me and Cheng Mukyu in the kitchen. Everything settled down. The 2 sat in the kitchen, facing each other in silence. For a long while, there was only the crackling sound of firewood burning. The firelight illuminated the 2's faces, but neither expression could be seen clearly. I sighed softly, taking the lead to break the silence. Thank you for today. Cheng Mukyu didn't react for a moment. After reacting, she hurriedly spoke. No need to thank me. As long as you're fine, it's good. I didn't ask her why she would appear there. The answer was obvious. If he asked again, it would only add to the awkwardness between the 2. So avoided this topic. Tell me, how long has it been since we were like this, sitting together calmly and chatting? Cheng Mukyu recalled seriously. It seemed over these years. The first time the 2 calmly ate and chatted was the night I made up my mind to leave. But that time was only a Phaeton. Lin Ran got a fever, so she hurriedly went to take care of him. Only later did she realize. That was me wanting to bid her a proper farewell. It was her who even left halfway through the final farewell. Thinking of this, her heart ached, opened and closed her mouth, but didn't know what she could say. Apologies had been spoken 10,000 times, but they couldn't offset the harm caused. The 2 were silent for a long time. Before I spoke again, Cheng Mukyu, let go of the past and move forward. I've already stepped out of it. You shouldn't be trapped in the past either. Cheng Mukyu didn't utter a sound. Didn't say okay. Didn't say no. The 2 just sat in silence like this until dawn. Early the next morning, the 2 said goodbye to the host family and rode their bikes hurrying towards the base. When I arrived at the base, I hurriedly went to Kutangyu's office to beg pardon. Explaining the reason, I'm really sorry. Comrade Ku, I sprained my ankle last night. Had no way to rush back, so I could only borrow a night's stay at a villager's home. Comrade Gu, I believe you. But you also know the rules here. I need to ask you a few questions. First, is there anyone who can prove it? I had long anticipated this situation. After hesitating again and again, I still spoke. Inside the base, Comrade Cheng Mukyu can prove it. Outside the base, the family of villagers who took me in can prove it. Ku Tongzhu seemed to have not expected this situation. Shockedly asked, why can Comrade Cheng Mukyu prove it? I sighed softly, gritted my teeth and spoke. Because last night we were together. Before Ku Tongzhu could recover from this shocking news, I spoke, and delivered another even more shocking piece of news. Comrade Cheng Muku is my ex-wife. We used to be husband and wife. Ku Tongzhu somewhat couldn't find his voice. Why didn't the organization say this? Your file doesn't have this item written either. I originally didn't want to say this, but this involved the authenticity of his statements. He had to answer. Commander Liu over their nose. As for the others, I erased it when I applied for the transfer, because I really didn't want others to know about this past. Since Commander Li knew, Ku Tongzhu didn't have anything else to say either. Just told him to go write a situation statement first. When the time comes, they will send someone to verify the situation. I have no other intentions either. It's just pure, routine procedure. I know the rules. I nodded and left the office. I originally thought the matter would pass like this, but didn't expect a few days later. I was urgently called to Commander Liu's office. He was somewhat confused, but looking at Commander Liu's posture, it was very hostile. He didn't know what happened, but this silent space made him even more panicked. So he carefully asked the commander, "Is there something you called me here for?" Commander Liu didn't speak, just kept looking at him with an appraising gaze. Didn't answer, but asked instead, "Comrade Gu, when you came here, you signed a non-disclosure agreement, right?" I didn't know what he meant, but still cooperated and said yes. Commander Liu nodded and continued speaking. "Then do you know leaking superior secrets? What kind of crime is it?" Hearing this, a bad premonition arose in my heart. Sure enough, I heard Commander Liu speak again. We found out. Someone transmitted the core secrets of the research outwards, and the people who recently submitted an application to go out and have hope of knowing the core secrets are only you and Comrade Ku. Comrade Ku has been here for many years. I know very clearly what kind of person he is. But I had a huge pot of blame thrown onto his back. I shouted injustice. "Commander, you can investigate. I just went out to take a look at the grottos. I don't have any thought of wanting to betray the organization. But the situation we investigated is, the villagers said they haven't seen you. You lied?" I widened my eyes in disbelief. This is impossible. There must be a misunderstanding here. Perhaps there is a misunderstanding. But I'm sorry, Comrade Yu. Please still cooperate with our investigation. Saying that, he gave the two people behind a look. I was taken away just like that. He was locked into a dark room without any explanation. I completely hadn't had time to react. His brain was a mess. On one hand, completely not understanding how things had developed to this point. Thinking there would be people coming to question and investigate. When the time comes, he could explain and clarify. But for 3 consecutive days, there was no news at all. Besides someone bringing him food and drinks on time, he hadn't seen Commander Liu, nor had he seen Ku Tongzhu. He wanted to fish for information from the person delivering food, but he kept his mouth tightly shut, unwilling to tell him anything. I, under this situation, completely isolated from the outside world, was almost driven crazy. On the verge of breaking down, finally, after 5 days, I saw Ku Tongzhu. He had prepared a bunch of explaining words, but didn't use a single one. After Ku Tongzhu came in, he opened his mouth with a face full of apology. "I'm sorry. Comrade Zhu, you've suffered. It's fine now. You can go out." Inexplicably locking him in here for a week, asking nothing, and suddenly telling him he could go out. My face was full of confusion, displeasure written directly on my face. I want to ask, what exactly is the situation here? Ku Tongzhu clearly came to explain this matter, waved his hand to let others leave, and slowly started to narrate. "We've already investigated clearly. This matter has nothing to do with you. I'm truly sorry. Made you suffer? So who did it? Someone you wouldn't expect. Someone who used you." Ku Tongzhu spoke with righteous indignation, his tone carrying uncontainable anger. This made me even more curious. "Someone I know?" Ku Tongzhu gave a cold laugh and gave him the answer. "More than just no. Your ex-wife, Cheng Mukyu." I blanked for a moment, suspecting I was hearing things, and blurted out, "Impossible." Although his marriage with Cheng Mukyu was a failure, he knew very well what kind of person Cheng Mukyu was. He knew she was patriotic and dedicated to her work, putting the motherland first in everything. How could she possibly do such a thing? Ku Tongzhu was stunned for a moment. He thought, based on my attitude towards Cheng Mukyu, hearing that Cheng Mukyu used him would evoke anger, but didn't expect he would defend her at the first moment. She already confessed, and confessed all the details. Su Tongzhu opened his mouth to explain. Are there no other loopholes? She was with me the entire time that day. Perhaps you guys should also listen to my testimony. I didn't understand why Chen Mukyu would confess to this unwarranted matter, but he wanted to fight for a sliver of hope for her again. She only met you near dusk, but she left the house in the morning. Your testimony has no meaning. It doesn't cover her time of committing the crime. Not only did she take the blame herself, she also cleared you completely. I understood. Cheng Mukyu did this to get him out of trouble. But with this way of handling things, she was simply courting death. Can I go see her once? I asked straightforwardly. He didn't need Cheng Muku to make this kind of sacrifice for him. Ku Tongzhu didn't say if he could or couldn't, but sincerely advised. I don't recommend you go see her at this time. I have things I want to ask her. My gaze was stubborn and direct, making Kutongya's heart tremble looking at it. Ilgo asked the commander. If he agrees, then you two can meet. I nodded in thanks. Returned to the residence first, tidied up, and took a bath. Being locked in the dark room for so many days, he felt his whole body smelled bad. Near dusk, Su Tongzhu finally came looking for him. Told him he could go see Cheng Mukyu. He then followed the person. Arriving at the door of another dark room, Ku Tongzhu told him to go in by himself. He would wait for him outside. I said thanks and went in the door. When seeing Cheng Mukyu, his anger couldn't be suppressed, but looking at her exhausted appearance from head to toe, his speaking tone was as gentle as possible. Why did you take this unwarranted crime upon yourself? Cheng Mukyu smiled bitterly. But the words she spoke could infuriate a person to death. How do you know this is unwarranted? Perhaps it was really me who did it. My anger flared up at once. My volume raised quite a bit. Cheng Mukyu, I have no mood to joke with you. Do you understand the nature of this matter? Do you know what kind of end you will face? I know. A calm, yet slightly aggrieved voice. Listening to it made me sigh softly. Since you know, why did you still do this? Because I couldn't find a better method. They locked you up. I couldn't just stand by and watch them torture you. I'd rather the person being tortured be me. I was exasperated. The matter hasn't even been investigated clearly. How could they possibly torture me? This is a new era. No one will use forced confessions. You should know this point better than me. But they wouldn't let me see you. I didn't know your situation inside. I know she did this for my sake. Couldn't really get angry at her either. Took a deep breath and asked what to do now. You took all this on your own shoulders. And then what? Are you going to die for this unwarranted crime? This time Cheng Mukyu stopped joking around and said seriously, I want. There are still many mysteries surrounding the incident. Before they are completely figured out, nothing will happen to me. You don't need to worry about me. Just focus on your own things earnestly. Don't do anything superfluous. Don't pay attention to anything concerning me. Avoid bringing this matter upon yourself again. I still wanted to say something more, but Ku Tongzhu pushed the door and entered. Comrade Zhu, the time is up. I could only give you this much time. He could only follow Ku Tongzhu out of the room. After talking with Chen Mukyu, his mood was even worse. Ku Tongzhu, seeing him like this, felt unbearable in his heart. Opened his mouth to comfort. Don't think too much. Knowing a person's face doesn't mean knowing their heart. Not judging a person clearly is not your fault. I smiled bitterly and shook my head. In this regard, he completely believed Chen Mukyu. He didn't misjudge her character. It was just that Chen Mukyu going to this extent for him made him very irritated. To him, from the moment he decided to leave, the two of them had no relationship anymore. But now, he had no way to tell Ku Tongzhu, nor was he prepared to explain. The two parted at the fork in the road. I returned to my room myself, but at the door, saw Zhao Xiao Tao, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. She stood at the door holding a lunchbox, somewhat at a loss for words. I saw you hadn't gone to the cafeteria to eat for a long time, didn't know what happened. So I came here every day to wait. Finally waited until you were here. I was stunned. Thank you, Comrade Zhao. Xiao Xiao Tong shook her head, indicating no thanks needed. Asked with concern, so what exactly happened? Why haven't you shown up for several days? I realized the news had been blocked. Others completely didn't know what happened. So I opened my mouth to brush it off. Nothing happened. I was transferred to another place to study for a few days. That's good. I thought something happened. Comrade Cheng Mukyu, who lives with me, I haven't seen her for a long time either. Speaking towards the end. Her voice got softer and softer, as if murmuring in a low voice. Hearing this name from someone else's mouth, I smiled bitterly and didn't say anything more. The two exchanged a few simple pleasantries and then said goodbye. At night, I lay in bed tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep no matter what. Thoughts were flying wildly in my mind. He couldn't think of a way to break the deadlock on this matter. If the real culprit of this incident wasn't caught, then Cheng Mukyu would very likely be executed by firing squad. The country has never had the slightest tolerance for spies. Bearing the burden of Cheng Mukyu's life was even more painful than letting him die himself. I couldn't help but want to question the heavens, giving me another chance. Was it to have me die even more cruelly? Because it was investigated clearly that the matter had nothing to do with me. So he quickly resumed work. Standing at the bottom of this building again, I subconsciously looked at the sentry soldier. He smiled and greeted him. But it was someone he didn't know, no longer Cheng Mukyu. I took a deep breath, returned to smile, raised my foot and went up the building. The matter was kept hidden very well. The other members in the group were also completely unaware, affectionately coming up to him, asking where he had been recently. What did Comrade Ku say? I didn't answer directly. First, probing a bit, he said you had personal matters, and took a leave. So I also continued with his explanation. I took a leave to handle some personal matters, but now they are all handled. The colleague didn't ask further either. Instead, started complaining bitterly. Thank goodness, you're back. You don't know? During this time, Comrade Ku was like crazy, pushing himself to death while also oppressing us. We almost couldn't hold on. I smiled, symbolically comforted them a few sentences, and then had everyone get to work. Ku Tongzhu was a scientific research maniac. Since he came, he even handed over some miscellaneous work. All to him, only focusing on experiments, so the members in the group actually had a better relationship with him, and were more familiar. He usually didn't put on any airs of a leader either. Only then did they dare to complain to him so brazenly. But now, I had absolutely no mood for it, always forcing a smile. His mind was full of Changmukius matters, and he didn't know how she was doing now. Since that time, he was never allowed to visit again. A few days later, I learned that Cheng Mukyu was going to be taken away from here, to go to another place to undergo investigation. He hesitated again and again, but still went to beg Commander Liu. He wanted to go see her off, in case this was the last time they met. He didn't want to make himself feel even more guilty. The day Cheng Mukyu was put on the helicopter, the weather was unusually gloomy. Yellow sand filled the sky, as if wanting to shroud this city in a vortex. I saw Cheng Mukyu, who had lost a lot of weight, in front of me, and didn't know what to say for a moment. Instead, Cheng Mukyu looked at him smilingly, her smile full of doting, and spoke softly. Don't worry, nothing will happen. That's what she said. But she actually didn't hold much hope that she could come back alive. After all, this matter was quite complex. If it could be investigated clearly, she wouldn't be taken away from here. So she hesitated again and again, and still spoke with a plea. Yu Feng, if I can come back safely this time, will you forgive me? She knew she shouldn't take advantage of someone in danger. She despised this behavior of hers, but she really wanted my forgiveness. Not wanting to die still carrying his hatred on her deathbed, at the last moment I still couldn't hold back my tears, and said with a choked voice, I have never hated you, living two lives. Time had already smoothed out everything. He didn't have anything to hate about Chen Mukyu. Everything was destiny. Just accepting it calmly was enough. The two's farewell was interrupted when the escorts came to take her away. Chen Mukyu only left one sentence at the end. Live your life well. Then followed the others on too. The story serves as a profound and poignant exploration of the devastating consequences of emotional neglect, illustrating how taking a genuine, unconditional love for granted can utterly destroy a bond that was once built on fervent devotion. It vividly captures the agonizing reality of unrequited affection, where years of indifference and pain eventually exhaust the most resilient heart, compelling the protagonist to choose self-preservation and dignity through a painful yet liberating rebirth. Through the narrative of separation, sacrifice, and belated awakening, the audience is reminded that sincere love requires active nurturing and mutual respect. Because once a heart is completely broken by systemic apathy, no amount of late-stage regret, apologies, or desperate efforts to make amends can ever bridge the chasms of the past. Ultimately, the narrative teaches us a vital lesson about reclaiming one's self-worth, finding ultimate fulfillment in personal growth and larger life purposes, rather than remaining trapped in a cycle of emotional starvation. Sending a universal message to cherish genuine devotion while it is present, and to recognize that some relationships, once truly lost to the erosion of time and neglect, can never be undone.